Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
It's the fourth quarter now. I don't care about the actual fourth quarter losses that have come before this Nebraska team. Where this team is at in the season right now is their fourth quarter. You live and die by these moments. Are you the team you think you can be? Or are you just another white plate in a cabinet full of other white plates? No. This is where you become a red plate. This is the point in the season where you separate yourself from the rest that have been haunting your game for the last 5 years. This is where you make something of yourself, the program and the future of Nebraska. Ethan Piper's mom's here.
You fight if it means you die. You fight, and you take for once what we want. Enough of this waiting for something good to happen. Who's the guy that's supposed to make the difference? I'm surrounded by it. Now you guys freaking do it. We on the same page? Yes, sir. Fight!
If that doesn't fire you up, I don't know what will. All eyes on you this weekend. Sat, don't be throwing the ball on 3rd and goal. It's prime time, baby. Don't fail yourselves. Don't fail your teammates. Trust your instincts. Play fearless. Play fearless. And go win yourself a football game. Woo!
With that, we welcome you into a Football Friday here on Hurrdat Sports.
Come on!
Good morning. If that doesn't get you fired up and ready to go for the day, I don't know what will. Was getting some
one-take wonder.
Was getting some 300 vibes there. This is where we fight. This is where they die. Good, well done there by my guy Andrew Rogers. I'm Ravi Lulla.
Don't forget about Ethan Piper's mom.
Oh, Ethan Piper's mom. She's, I know you're pointing at Sat too. He didn't have much to say. We're here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill and the H&H Chevrolet stage. We've got a great Football Friday show for you here today. We're going to have our usual suspects. We've got our guy MRI coming up at 8 o'clock.
You're getting an MRI today?
No. Michael Rose-Ivey, former Husker. Although he might be able,
getting an inside look with him.
I'll say he might be able to diagnose what's going on with Nebraska football for us. With our guy Michael Rose-Ivey, former Nebraska Cornhusker, at 9 o'clock. Another usual suspect, Mike Sautter, coming in. We've got state championship football coming up on Monday and Tuesday in the capital city. So we'll talk to our guy Mike Sautter about that as well. Maybe we'll touch a little Nebraska basketball with him. We haven't been able to get to a ton of Nebraska basketball this week, but they've picked up a couple wins.
4 in a row, right?
I believe that's right.
First 4-0 start since the 1800s, according to TK yesterday.
Maybe ever. And then we wrap up the show, as always, with Matt Vrzal. But we've also got a little special guest for you this morning, Cole Carmody. He covers Kansas State football. And the reason we're talking to Cole is because, there's a big rivalry game this weekend between Kansas State and KU. A top 25 matchup. I don't remember when the last time that happened was. It's probably more recently than I'm recalling, but I kind of enjoy seeing a top 25 Kansas State-Kansas matchup. You like to see the local teams do well here, and now that we're not in the Big 12, who cares? You can root for them. It's all good. Kansas State has gotten a lot of Nebraska guys in their program over the Nebraska high school guys. I mean, in their program,
well, and
Amar, so one of a transplant as well. But the other reason I want to talk to Cole was because Chris Kleiman's name keeps popping up on these lists, and it's going to keep popping up on these lists, most prominently with the Texas A&M job. But that's a really, really good football coach doing a really good job at a school where people weren't sure anyone besides Bill Snyder could succeed there, because no one besides Bill Snyder had ever succeeded there, including during his first retirement, where they went Ron Prince, and he's like, this is so ugly, I have to unretire to fix it. And then you got Chris Kleiman, who comes in from North Dakota State and kind of picks up right where Bill Snyder left off. So he's obviously a very a very, very good football coach and can win in some difficult situations. I'm curious to see from Cole how much worry there is about losing him, and how much, what they're trying to do to try and keep him. Last year when Leipold's name was coming up for like Wisconsin and Nebraska,
They extended him.
but not only extended him, because that extension sat on his desk for a long time. They tried to get their NIL ducks in a row, because that was one of the things that he was worried about, being able to compete long-term at Kansas. I believe they announced a new facility in that time as well. I mean, they really rolled out the red carpet to say, hey, we are committed to football, which has been the question at Kansas a lot of times, right? A lot of times it's been like, well, as long as basketball teams go, and
Right.
like,
they're our big they're our big numerical.
You can kind of do whatever you want.
Well, K-State too, think about it. They offered Kleiman an extension last year as well.
Yeah.
He's got an 8-year deal now.
Because his name came up with those. So, I mean, it probably would have to be a big program like Texas A&M to pay the buyout.
Well, and he's only making $5.5 million annually. A&M can give him
could double
at
it if
least,
they wanted to.
I was going to say at least $4 million more.
Yeah, they could double it if they want to. I mean, it wouldn't be. They could double it and still not have to pay him more than they paid Jimbo. I mean, Jimbo was right at 11. So that's why we're talking to Cole Carmody at 7:45, because I just find that whole situation with Kleiman and these quote unquote smaller, big Power 5 schools that have to try and hold on to their coaches because they get poached when they do well, or can potentially get poached when they do well. It's an unfamiliar position for Kansas because they don't do well enough to get their coaches poached usually. Right. But Kansas State, and it's kind of unusual for Kansas State too, because, I mean, Bill Snyder wasn't going anywhere. The field was named after him. So he was kind of a lifer at that point. So it's an unusual position for Kansas State to be in, and we'll talk to Cole Carmody from PowerCat. That's the Kansas State 24/7 network at 7:45 to get that going as well. But speaking of coaches, Coach Rule at his presser yesterday had some interesting things.
Yeah, he likes the Bears
to say. Well, I don't know if he likes me. He liked the shirt, at least. He liked the shirt that somebody in the press conference
He said Bear shirt. Nice.
Yeah. Well, he might have been saying nice shirt, not nice Bears.
No, he said nice to the Bears.
I mean, listen,
you should have put shirt after that. Nice.
You're not gonna like some of my picks later with the Bears. But no, I'm listeing to that because he went only about 17 minutes yesterday, not his post game 37-minute that he was doing.
I kind of took notice that there weren't like a heck of a lot of people there either.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the normal spread. People were kind of pulled in a ton of different directions, and the room seemed a bit smaller.
Yeah, and I think the Thursday one is generally a little smaller than the Monday one because you're not coming right off of a game, but that is a good point. A couple of things that kind of stuck out to me. I think we found out I mean, I know he didn't say this specifically, but what he said about Harburg let me know that dude is not playing unless it's an emergency.
Right.
Because he hadn't practiced yet this week. He thinks he's going to practice today.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he thought he was going to, he said tomorrow, which is now today. But Chubba and Jeff have been splitting first team reps the whole week, and they are taking Luke Longville on the trip with them to be the fourth quarterback, which lets me know that Harburg is like, hey, if you have to go in there to take snaps and hand the ball off, you will do that, but that's about the only situation where we're going to put him into play. So that was interesting, number one, kind of a confirmation about what we thought, I think, about Harburg's injury. Number two, I do think he's playing it pretty coy with who his starting quarterback is going to be. I would be shocked if he didn't know already. Like, that doesn't seem like him at all. And
he knows, he's just not telling us yet.
Because he doesn't want to tell Wisconsin yet, right? Like, he doesn't want Wisconsin to be able to prepare. Because unlike Harburg and Sims, where the game plans are pretty similar, I imagine the game plans between Chubba and Sims are dramatically different. So especially with that Chubba groin injury, because Chubba is pretty mobile, as we saw at the end of the game last week. But with the groin injury that's kind of been nagging him all season, that I believe I've been told is going to require surgery at some point, that's going to be a dramatically different game plan, especially with that injury. So I think he's being smart and not letting Wisconsin know who it's going to be. Because I genuinely, it's not like you can handicap that situation the same way you can with Heinrich Haarberg. I genuinely think it's possible that either one of these guys start. I personally go Chubba. That's where I've been all week. I just am over the Jeff Sims experiments.
Yeah, for me, it's what quarterback's going to win you the fourth quarter. It's not about who's going to win you the first three. I'm focusing on who's going to win me the fourth quarter.
Although I'd take all the first three as well. But yeah, the fourth quarter is obviously where their emphasis has been.
In the first three,
yeah,
the defense can get you to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And we've seen that this season in at least 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
That the defense has gotten you all the way there.
I mean, Minnesota and Maryland for sure.
But the turnover issues have what costed you in the end.
Yeah.
What quarterback is going to win you the fourth quarter? Because you know this game's going into the fourth quarter again. This is a Wisconsin team that's not very good. Yeah. And so this game's going to be close. It's not going to be separated by the 5-point mark. It's probably going to be closer to 3. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find out that you need a quarterback that can at least protect the football once they get past the 50. Mm-hmm. And they're in enemy territory. You need somebody to be able to do that. Whoever you have the most confidence in doing that, that's who you have to choose based off previous experience. It's probably not Jeff Sims. No. It's probably Purdy. But what we have to remember with Purdy is he's not fully healthy. So you can't do crazy things with him either.
So I think that's an important distinction there too, because I don't even know that you need the quarterback that's going to win you the fourth quarter. You need the quarterback that's not going to lose you the fourth quarter, because that's what Jeff Sims
that would
did.
Be a win if you don't lose me the fourth quarter.
But there's a difference in terms of like how they play, right? I don't necessarily need a guy to go out and make huge splash plays and things like that. I need Jeff Sims not to turn it over on 2 consecutive plays to start the fourth quarter, right? That excuse me, that's what you need in order to actually win this game, is right there. Just not sabotaging yourself. That's the thing that we've seen over and over and over again, is they sabotage themselves. And listen, I don't know if Chubba Purdy's that guy or not. His track record of college football is spotty and pretty short. Mm-hmm. Even though he's been in college a while, he had a couple games at Florida State. He had some mop-up duty at Nebraska. He had a couple games at Nebraska last year. That's it. My guy just does not have a long track record. I think he's thrown like it might be under 100 passes total in his college career. It's definitely under 200. It's not even a season's worth of experience. And he's been in college for, I think, 4 years now. This is a guy that is a total unknown in my mind. Mm-hmm. But the unknown of Purdy is more comforting to me than the known of Jeff Sims at this point.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about this? We wouldn't even be having this conversation if Nebraska wasn't in a spot where they could be playing for a bowl game.
Yeah.
Because if they were 3 and what would they be if they're 3 and 7? If they were 3 and 7 right now, mm-hmm. Chubba Purdy would be the answer. Oh, maybe not. Chubba Purdy may get shut down because you're not really playing for much at this point. But if Chubba Purdy were playing, he's the answer in this game for sure, because
you
don't need to go with the or you don't have to worry about the unknown in a game like this, because, there's not much at stake.
And you want to see what you have to know moving forward what's in the quarterback
room. But because you are 5-5, because this Nebraska team is 5-5, that's why you get this pool of uncertainty, mm-hmm. because okay, we have a chance to win, and we have a chance to move forward in December. We have a chance to make headway through recruiting based on where we play in December as well. But who's going to get us there? Do I really want a guy that's 60, 70%? Do I want a guy that's 80%? I don't know where Chubba falls on that line.
Yeah.
Or do I want a healthy Jeff Sims that, yes, we know his past, he can't hold on to the football, but maybe we develop a game plan this week where all you do is give it to Emmett Johnson 25 times.
Yeah, and this sounds so cynical. I don't know that I trust Jeff Sims to do anything, because there have been dropped, and it's not just on Sims. Part of it is I don't trust Satterfield to call that kind of game consistently, because there's been drop snaps. There's been such simple.
Mm-hmm. Well, Satterfield's got to take it easy on Sims this week if he's the starter.
He's got to take it easy on either of them.
Well, just the end of the year, but especially Sims in the emotional state that he's in.
Yeah, we would think,
because we talked with Avery about this on Wednesday. This is a competitor mm-hmm. that is struggling right now.
Yeah,
and you can't keep putting him in situations that will will cause him to go back to that dark place.
Mhm.
You have to make it easy on the guy, which is why I emphasized being basic on Monday and just taking the points and not thinking you have Marvin Harrison and Brock Bowers on your team, because you don't have superstars.
No,
you don't have guys that can clean up mistakes on a throw that may be a little out of reach for a receiver that Harrison and Bowers probably grab all the time, but it goes over Fidoni's head. You just don't. And it's not a knock on the talent at Nebraska. It's that you just don't have elite superstars. And so they can't be there to make a bad throw look okay.
Well, and you also, the guys that we're talking about, maybe they end up being, I'm not saying they're going to end up being Marvin Harrison and Bowers, but you might have some Sunday guys on this team, but they're all freshmen. They're all, all the receivers except for Billy Kemp are freshmen. Thomas Fidoni is playing his first year of college football. I get he's not a freshman, but this is his first year of college football, right? So these guys, maybe next year, the year after that, maybe they do start making these plays. Maybe they do start cleaning up for your quarterback. Maybe they do start helping you when things aren't clean and perfect. But right now, they're just trying to be able to do their job, much less cover up for your job too. So that's another difficult position for the quarterbacks. And that's why a lot of the season, I've had such a hard time being critical of Satterfield, because he is in a really difficult position. The whole team is. But
it's not always pretty, not always easy.
It certainly hasn't been pretty.
Are you
Marcus.
sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty?
I'm pretty sure.
It looks
More
like
gray hairs, maybe less sleep.
It looks like my niece putting makeup on my face. That's how pretty it looks.
It's like the Joker putting his clown makeup on. Just
I don't know. I think my niece has less turnovers than we've seen.
That's probably true. So we'll get into more Nebraska football at 8:00 when we talk to our guy Michael Rose-Ivey.
Get to our 3 keys as well.
3 keys to the game. We're gonna make some picks later. Our college and NFL picks. I've actually been doing okay on the NFL. I'm not doing as good on college, but I'm doing okay.
See, I haven't tracked my picks, but last week I believe I went 2-1, so I'm okay with that.
So I only track my picks because I'm in like a pick'em league with a couple buddies, and so whatever I make 5 picks for college and NFL, both on those. And I just take 3 of my picks that I like the most and use them here. So kind of, 2 birds, 1 stone.
Sure.
But the deal for me is I just am able to track it because the guy that keeps track of it for that league, I don't actually keep track of it on my own because that's not, I'm not a super organized person in that sense. I can barely remember what teams I picked to be in the Final Four last week. But
carry the 2.
I know Creighton. I picked Creighton and Kansas.
Hey, that math doesn't math.
I was gonna say. So I did want to. We were talking about this off the air because a little behind the scenes here. Okay, every morning I get a text from our boss, and she sends me, "Hey, these are the people supporting our show today. Like, just so we remember them and everything like that,"
which is great and a huge help.
Super helpful because I would forget every day. I would. I'm very good when she texts me about it. If I didn't have that, I'm terrible. As I mentioned,
she keeps us in line.
Not super organized.
That's why she gets paid the big bucks.
So she usually she's up before me, or at least sends the text before
I
me.
think she sleeps,
and she sends it usually by like 6 or 6:30 in the morning.
I'm ready to go last night.
Yeah, so I get to the show this morning and it's about 7:00, and I text her. I go, "Hey, ads, please." And that's all I say.
Please.
And so I want to be nice about it. And she's like, "Hey, sorry, I just woke up." Because I forgot she does this thing every year, which is bonkers to me because I would never do it. She goes to the Basilica Axe Murder House
and
in
that's
Iowa.
in Iowa, right? Yeah.
And like,
because it's all coming back to me.
It's a like experience because it's supposed to be haunted because there was this like gruesome axe murders that happened in that house. I think like 100 years ago, like late 1800s, early 1900s, somewhere in there. And I gotta say, that is not something I would do in a million bajillion years. I don't think there is an amount of money that you could pay me unless I was allowed to be sedated to the point of not knowing where I was. Would not be.
I could help you with that. We can just go back to the back of the bar here at Hurrdat Sports.
That's the only way I would do it. And even then, it's like, is that something you would ever do?
No. Hard pass.
Yeah.
Because there's a place in St. Louis called the Limp Mansion.
Okay.
which it's kind of the same thing. If I remember the story correctly, it was a family member that like killed everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll have to like really do some research because it's been a while since I've like recounted this story, but it's a mansion in St. Louis that essentially does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not axe murder. It's a little bit different, but people died in different rooms.
Yeah.
And I think it was, they were like a really rich family.
Okay.
Because obviously mansion.
It's a mansion.
Right?
Yeah. This is like a farmhouse in Iowa.
So people do that all the time though, and stay at this place. And I just don't want to be in touch with the supernaturals.
No.
I'm okay with staying in my in my house in Omaha that has no backstory. It was built on a cul-de-sac. It's got a driveway. I don't know if yours has a driveway, but mine has a driveway.
Yeah.
Like every other house is what I'm saying.
Yes,
that's my house.
I want a normal. I've literally, this is a true story. My wife and I bought our first house about 4 years ago at this point, and we went to a couple different houses that we both genuinely really liked. But if I get creepy vibes from a house, it's an immediate no, just a hard no.
No,
I'm just not doing it. Listen, it's a big purchase, obviously, but if I get any sort of creepy vibe from a house,
right,
I am just 1,000,000% out. Like,
yes,
no matter.
That's what the Lemp Mansion looks like.
See, that's a pretty dope looking house.
It is dope, but doesn't it look creepy?
It does.
Like,
yeah.
imagine it being dark and not light in this photo.
Yeah, my wife would be like, "Ooh, that's a pretty house." I always say it wrong. It's Veliska Axe Murder House. I always want to say, I don't know what I said the first time, but Veliska Axe Murder House. But yeah, so I
talking to a ghost.
Basically, the point of that story is our boss is much tougher than we are. And she does this, I think, every year. She goes it's like a little pilgrimage. She has had some weird stuff happen, she told me. So, like,
yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
I don't need any other chance to be worried in this world.
The moment there was like a breeze that I couldn't explain, like, I'm out. Like, I don't even need something weird
Unless
to
you're
happen.
guaranteeing me that Nebraska wins this weekend, I'm not going to sit in that house for 15 minutes.
I need more than a bowl berth to sit in that house.
No,
I
okay.
need like a natty if I'm sitting in that house.
A natty? I can get you a natty.
I need
no, I can get you a natural light.
No worries. National title.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Natty Light's not going to encourage me to stay anywhere.
I don't know. It depends on how much you drink.
Unless they're a sponsor, then we love you. But yeah. So shout out to Sasha for being BA and way tougher than we are. Because I can't eat. Yeah, that's part of the reason I wear headphones when I'm asleep. I hear like noises in the house, which is, it's reasonable because I have a billion pets. So like somebody's always making a noise.
Right.
But yeah, I can't do it. I couldn't do it. So shout out to Sasha there. And I can't believe she's up already. Like, just burning the candle at both ends there. So yeah, that's our little fun Sasha story.
I'm reading more about this Lemp family, and it's crazy.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You're going to be creeped out. Coming up next, we've been trying to talk about Jim Harbaugh all week. There's been too much going on. Finally, they accept the suspension. So we're going to talk about Harbaugh and Michigan. Coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Freshman from Downingtown, Pennsylvania, will be, well, let's just say this, the recipient of a pretty big spotlight here in the second half.
Huge play here for the freshman Will Howard in this Kansas State offense.
Will throw it into the middle. It's caught for a first down. Midfield is Vaughn to the 40. Deuce Vaughn to the 30, to the 20, 10, 5. Wildcat touchdown. Wants a bunch. Deep ball. Caught. Touchdown. Over the middle. That ball is caught. Will Howard has another touchdown pass.
Launches to the end zone. Jump ball touchdown. Forget about me, says Will Howard on the money.
Will Howard with a big play for K-State right there. Unbelievable.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Come on, let's go. Let's do it.
That's a 5. See what he does this time. Now he's across the 20, and he's got a lot more. Abdullah, he might take it down the sideline. Knocked out of bounds near the 20. But all of a sudden, there's life in Memorial Stadium now.
Oh, flabbergasted. I was like, what? Really?
Play action. Hurrdat rolls out there and catches it for the touchdown. Good looking play. Martinez to Burkhead out of the backfield. Nebraska's in the end zone. Martinez, quarterback draw. Found some room. Martinez on the run inside the 20 to the 5. Touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Martinez to the end zone. Touchdown. Kyler Reed.
You can live with that, man. That's ball.
And they're going to run it the other way to Abdullah. And Abdullah, the ball came out. Martinez scooped it up. Wow. Maher to try to give the Cornhuskers the lead. Kick on the way, and it is good. Brett Maher, the senior out of Kearney, Nebraska, has given the hometown crowd something to cheer about. A lead.
If you can't get up for this game, then you don't need to be.
Patterson, the tight end, moves. Everybody stacked up close for Nebraska. Ball hit the backfield. The ball is out. Nebraska's got it, and they'll have the ball game.
I'm done. Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back into Hurrdat Sports Radio, live from Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, H&H Chevrolet Stage. We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. You can get us on Twitter, YouTube. We appreciate our friends in the comments already popping off. We are alive and well in the YouTube comments. Man, we've been here for like 20 minutes. They're already going crazy.
Go nuts!
We love all of our YouTube commenters, keeping us on our toes and keeping things interesting. You can be a part of the YouTube comments, or you can join us on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, 888-638-4876, or you can go old school. Just send us an email. I'm Ravi at hurrdatsports.com. That's Andrew at hurrdat.com. Or there's always the old Twitter machine at Ravi Lulla. Or, just mention us, mention the show, put it for everybody out there to see what your hot takes are. And that's at Andrew Rogers CC. Because he's thick with 2 C's. Not really, but that's okay. We've got
C squared.
We've got some stuff to get here with the Jim Harbaugh situation. Obviously was suspended right before the game last week by the Big Ten. And, he had a lot of big words to say, a lot of blustering. I believe the word I used with you last night was grandstanding. Being like, I just want my due process, and I'm going to testify on Friday, and blah, 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 blah. Jim Harbaugh blowing hot air. And guess what we find out last night? Oh, no, we're just going to accept the suspension. We're all good.
We're not going to go to the hearing on Friday.
That we demanded.
Big man, little strength. That's what Jim Harbaugh is. That's what Michigan is, Ravi. First off, the suspension was bogus. Let's just be frank about the punishment that he was serving. Why would you even get mad about your so-called punishment when you could do everything a head coach could do except stand on the sideline on Saturday?
So you don't think the punishment was severe enough?
I don't think it was severe.
Okay.
At all.
There we go. Okay.
So the point to Michigan arguing it to death and blowing it up in the media was ridiculous to me because it didn't actually impact the team. Having Jim Harbaugh not there on the sideline, you saw it against Penn State. Yeah. It didn't impact the team, which is why they were okay with coming to the decision this week. If Michigan would have lost last week, it would have been an entirely different story. They would have fought it so much harder. But they didn't lose because their team is better right now. And their team is still better because they have what? Everybody else's signs and signals. Even if they changed it, it helped in recruiting because they got, since 2020, they've had all the bodies in the world to build this team to greatness and be a college football playoff team, let alone a national contender. Michigan, you guys are wimps. Michigan, you are such wimps. At least ride this out instead of caving.
So here's what I think happened. I think the Big Ten went to him and said, hey, if we go into open court on Friday, here's what's going to come out. Here's what we have on you. And Michigan's like, yeah, we would rather that not happen. Because that was the only situation where the details of what the investigation has yielded would for sure come out. Because that is public record once you go into a court. And that's what Michigan was taking this into. They were taking it out of the Big Ten sphere and they were taking it into a court to get a judge to stop what the Big Ten suspension had come down. The NCAA investigation isn't going to come out publicly for at least a while, right? Probably by the time Jim Harbaugh's gone. What I think happened was that Michigan realized that what the Big Ten had on them was dramatically worse than they realized. And they were like, oh, yeah, we will take our 3-game suspension. Thank you. And thank you for letting me coach all week and not have to miss. So I agree that the suspension was crap in terms of not severe enough. And I agree that Michigan is just full of a bunch of hot air and total BS. But I think that's what happened. I think that's why they backed down so dramatically, because I think the Big Ten was just like, hey, here's our evidence. Would you like everyone to see this?
You're absolutely right with that point. The other point, too, which shows absolutely no stones, which is why I call Coach Harbaugh a big man with little strength, is the fact that if you're innocent, if you're willing to push this to the end like you have been doing this whole time, why cave and accept the punishment? If there weren't other things presented in front of you that were like, oh, shoot, they caught me. This is like I said this to you yesterday. It's like a poker player, the worst poker player at the table bluffing.
Yeah.
And everybody saw right through them.
Yeah.
And didn't buy the BS.
Yeah, we'll call your bluff.
Oh, we're America's team. Due process this. Due process that. Newsflash. In America, guess what happens when you commit a crime? Oh, you serve a punishment.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're doing in America. If you're America's team, you should know exactly what America's rules are.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that annoyed me the most was obviously Michigan knew the things they did, right? So to put on this show of innocence and make a big deal about it, thinking that the Big Ten would back down when the Big Ten knew exactly what they had on Michigan. That to me is the annoying part. Like, if you get caught doing, like, listen, first of all, don't cheat in the first place. All right. Don't do that. But then if you get caught, don't go all shaggy on us and be like, wasn't me. We don't need that here. Like, if you get caught, like, if you get caught, just be like, hey, okay, I'll take the suspension. That's actually really lenient. Thank you. Right. I understand that and this is the part that bugs me the most about them, because you're right. This is a whole program of big words and little strength, right? Guess how many national titles they have since World War II?
Let me guess.
No, so they've got 1.5. They've got one in 1948.
They got the other one in 97.
They got the half in 97, which we don't really count here in Nebraska, but we'll give them the half in 97. And they've got one in 1948. In the last 65 years, 75 years, excuse me, math is hard. In the last 75 years, they have half of a national title. And they act like they're freaking Bama, like they're Ohio State. They act like they are in that group. They act like they're better than Nebraska. And listen, lately I get they have been. But I'm talking about 5 natties since 1970, not half a natty since 1948, all right? The fact that they act the way they do and they think, oh, we're not only are we this elite football program, which you got a lot more Clemson pre-Dabo in you than you've got Ohio State, Alabama, or Nebraska. But we're this elite academic institution as well. We're the top of the hill. I'm like, listen, they're great academics, right? Great law school, all that stuff. Congratulations. That doesn't make you better than everybody else, right? There's a lot of really great academic institutions in the Big Ten. That's kind of their thing. And guess what? No matter how good you are in the Big Ten, you're still not the Ivy League like you think you are. You're still not Stanford like you think you are. They think they're so much better than everyone else. And when they got called for their crap, they just lied about it. They're like, oh, we would never. We're Michigan, man. We would never do this and that and whatever. Guess what? All they were doing was playing shaggy. Wasn't me. Mm-hmm. That's all. And guess what? It was you. It was you. And they finally caved to it, because not only did, if we're going to extend the shaggy analogy, not only did they get caught on the bathroom floor, but somebody had video of it as well. They're like, hey, isn't that your guy on a CMU sideline? Isn't that your guy in the stands at Michigan State? Isn't that your guy at 30 different venues over the last 3 years? Oh, yeah, it was you, Michigan.
And, the problem with the Big Ten pursuing this is they didn't want to come public with the information they had either, because all that does is hurt their confidence in the end.
Yeah.
So that's why they were like, hey, let's come to this settlement.
Yeah.
We talk about severity of the punishment and it not being as big as it should have been. Well, the reason it wasn't big, and goes into points that I'm seeing on StreamYard right now with revenue slashing and things like that, it's because the NCAA has no control over this decision. Like, it wasn't their call.
But they still have an investigation active.
They have an investigation that's active, yes. But this was we're in step one with the Big Ten. The Big Ten couldn't do craziness to this team because they are the top team in their conference.
The NCAA is still to come, though, and so is Cole Carmody talking about Kansas State.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Play here for the freshman Will Howard in this Kansas State offense.
Will throw it into the middle. It's caught for a first down. Midfield is Vaughn to the 40. Deuce Vaughn to the 30. To the 20. 10, 5. Wildcat touchdown.
Howard wants a bunch. Deep ball. Caught. Touchdown.
Over the middle. That ball is caught. Will Howard has another touchdown pass.
Launches to the end zone. Jump ball touchdown. Forget about me, says Will Howard on the money.
Will Howard with a big play for K-State right there.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the H&H Chevrolet stage. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Andrew Rogers. Hey, you can hear us on AM 590 ESPN Omaha or ESPN Tri-Cities. We are joined now by Cole Carmody. He is covering K-State football for Go Power Cat. Cole, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you giving us some time here as Kansas State is going into a top 25 matchup with Kansas. That's
shabby.
Kind of a bizarre thing to say out loud, right? That's not a super common thing in this rivalry.
No, it's not at all. I think this is the first time since the mid-'90s that Kansas and Kansas State are both entering the Sunflower Showdown as ranked opponents. But Lawrence, Kansas is going to be a hopping place on Saturday. It's going to be a great game. Some quarterback uncertainties, which I'm sure we'll talk about for the Jayhawks, but this is an important game for the state, and I know the fans are looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's an important game for Kansas State as well. They are just a game back. Yeah, I know they lost that heartbreaker to Texas a couple weeks ago, but still just a game back in the loss column from the Longhorns and very much in the thick of that Big 12 race. With kind of all that still on the table for Kansas State, how's the mindset of the team right now?
I think it's pretty high. Obviously there was a statement released, or leaked, I should say, by the Big 12 Conference earlier this week. And, I don't know how much the players actually buy into all of the outside noises, they like to say. That's kind of been a motto for this team, is block out the outside noise. They've definitely had some struggles. They lost to Oklahoma State early in the year. They lost on a 61-yard field goal to Missouri. And then, as you mentioned, that loss to Texas. But this is a team that has a lot of veteran leaders, and they seem locked and ready to go. This game is so important. Kansas State has over 50 kids from the state of Kansas on the team. Kansas has actually 2 players on the depth chart, the Jayhawks do, on the 2 deep, that are from the state, and Kansas State has 9. So you can tell that this game means a little bit more to Kansas State. And it's going to be a great game for sure.
Cole, speak to that confusion a little bit that you were inferring with the difficult, or I guess the more difficult path K-State now faces to get to the conference championship game. What do you make of the midseason tiebreaker clarification that could keep the Wildcats from the big title game, Big 12 title game?
It's kind of funny because this has been a talking point on our website and throughout the fan base on Twitter and all that. And, if you were to ask any K-State fan, I think they would agree that was the rule in general bad? Yes, the rule in general is bad. Oklahoma State beat both Oklahoma and Kansas State head-to-head. And I think the consensus is agreed upon that they have actually earned that right, assuming they do win out, to make the Big 12 title game. But I think the frustration comes with the league. Very rarely do you see a conference come out and actually change the rules in the middle of the season. If they would have just came out and said, hey, we changed the rules, I don't think the frustration would be as much. But the fact that they came out and said that they didn't change the rule, when if you go back and read the rule they actually did, that's where the frustration comes into play.
Cole, so focusing on this Kansas game, you mentioned the uncertainty about the quarterback situation for the Jayhawks. How do you think Kansas State is preparing, considering they're not totally sure who's going to be behind center?
I think either way, what Kansas wants to do is run the football. Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw, that's what their game is. If you have Jason Bean under center, it obviously makes it a little bit easier for the Jayhawks to run the football. But I think for Kansas State, you've got to prepare like Jason Bean is the guy. We've heard Cole Ballard might be in line to start that game, the true freshman walk-on from Wisconsin. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But if I were to guess, I would truly believe that Kansas State believes Jason Bean will play, and that's how they'd be preparing. It's going to be a lot easier for them to adjust to the freshman than it would be to adjust to the fifth-year senior.
Cole, we are in the high points of the coaching carousel currently, with jobs opening up, and that's always cause for concern for a coach as good as Chris Kleiman and somebody that's not getting paid the big bucks. So with that being said, even with the 8-year contract extension he got last year, he's still only making about $5.5 annually. Could, I guess maybe how much weight do the rumors hold, knowing that he has that extension, but he's also connected to the Texas A&M job and other football jobs out there?
I don't have any worry at all, and I don't think Kansas State fans do either, that Chris Kleiman is going to leave. He's a Midwestern guy from the state of Iowa. He talked about how close he and athletics director Gene Taylor are to each other. Gene Taylor is a guy who's in his 60s. Chris Kleiman is in his mid-50s. I just don't see any way that Chris Kleiman leaves Kansas State, especially for a job like Texas A&M. I know that's kind of been the rumors out there regarding Kleiman and A&M, but it's very far-fetched to me. The only job that I could see Chris Kleiman even entertain would be his home state of Iowa. And I don't think you guys in Big Ten country would know. Only the offensive coordinator situation might be a little bit iffy up there, but I just can't see any way Chris Kleiman leaves Kansas State. He's building this program. They're poised to be at the top of the new Big 12. It would seem to be a very lateral move wherever he would go, unless it's an SEC school. I cannot see Chris Kleiman leaving anywhere anytime soon.
So, Cole, you mentioned that Iowa job and the relationship between Kleiman and Gene Taylor. You know, Iowa does have technically an open AD job as well. Is that part of the reason that there's a little bit of concern there? Because I've heard rumors that if Kirk Ferentz steps down because of this whole Bryant situation, that they may go after Kleiman and Gene as a kind of a package deal.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest concern, which is kind of crazy to think that Iowa over a school like Texas A&M would be in contention for Chris Kleiman. But yeah, I can't see at this moment in time anyway. Gene Taylor has kind of gotten to the point. He's made a lot of hires. He hired Jerome Tang on the basketball court. Kansas State obviously made the Elite Eight last year. He hired Chris Kleiman, who won a Big 12 championship. He hired a new volleyball coach for Kansas State who has them poised to make the NCAA tournament. And the women's basketball team, just had a massive upset against the Iowa Hawkeyes on the road last night. So the athletics department is really in good shape for K-State. I guess if you want to look at it from that way, Gene Taylor's done everything he can do to build this athletic department to that point. But he also is probably 2 or 3 years away from retiring. I know he has his whole entire family in Manhattan. He has his grandkids. And if there would be a time for him to leave, I think it would be now, but I just don't know how much work that Gene Taylor has left in him. And so that will be the big thing. But, if Gene Taylor does leave and take that job in Iowa, then I think there's some real concern that Chris Kleiman could follow him, assuming that head coaching position comes open.
Cole, I know last year when Lance Leipold's name came up at Kansas, not only did they extend at Kansas for other jobs, not only did they extend him, but they tried to kind of shore up the infrastructure of that Kansas football program with NIL and facilities and things like that. Has Kansas State done anything? I know that Kleiman got the extension. Have they tried to kind of improve some of the things around him to try and make it more enticing to stay, or is it mostly just the relationship with Gene Taylor?
I think it'd be more the relationship aspect. I know Kansas State, they do value their NIL pretty seriously. They were able to have some pretty big recruiting wins in the last 2023 cycle, and a lot of that had to do with the NIL. They convinced the 4-star top 100 kid in Avery Johnson to stay home at quarterback, who's actually played some this season. But as far as facilities go, Kansas State just completely upgraded their stadium. They built brand new end zone with suites, and it really has made brand new practice facility. So it really has elevated the entire football program. And anytime you win a Big 12 championship, there's going to be more fan interest. And so they sold out every single home game the last 2 seasons. That is a streak that I know Kansas State fans are excited about, getting this program heading in the right direction. But yeah, anytime you have success, there's going to be people that come calling, and there's no doubt that Chris Kleiman is a hot commodity.
Cole, we will get you out of here on this. Map out the path for us for K-State to get to the Big 12 title game. What has to go right for this team in order to get to that stage?
It's kind of funny you asked that question because there's still 16,000 possibilities. I kid you not, 16,000 possibilities with 2 weeks left to go for the Big 12 championship game. But for K-State, it's pretty simple. They need to win out. If they win out, then I think you ask them, and they feel like they have a great chance to get in. Oklahoma State, the easiest way would be Oklahoma State to lose the game, Texas to lose the game, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma to lose the game, and Kansas State to win out. Then they would be in the Big 12 championship game. However, if Texas loses to Iowa State, then there is a potential for a 4-way tie at the top, assuming Oklahoma and Oklahoma State win out. And if there is a 4-way tie, from what we can tell from the rules, as long as they're not changed in the middle of the week next week, Kansas State might actually have a good chance to get into the Big 12 championship game then. But for them, it's simple. They got to win out. They got to do some scoreboard watching and let the chips fall where they may.
Cole, we appreciate your time. Great stuff. And good luck this weekend against the big rival in that Sunflower Showdown.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, Cole.
That's Cole Carmody from Go Power Cat. That's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. I got to be honest. If I were him, I'd be a little more concerned about, maybe not about Texas A&M. He is a Midwestern guy, but $11 million is a lot of money too. Mm-hmm. Doubling that salary is hard to say no to. I don't care how much you like Manhattan, Kansas.
Or the Midwest.
I'd be a little more concerned. I could find a way to be comfortable just about anywhere for $11 million, except for the Villisca Axe Murder House. Not happening.
I don't know. I'd go there. I'd go there for $11 million. If you were paying me for one night, say less.
Coming up next, we've got our guy Michael Rose-Ivey. We're going to dive deep into Nebraska and Wisconsin tomorrow here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
My thing is just very simply all the time, did winning a game or losing a game affect the next game? It really doesn't. So let's go play well. After the game this week, you guys are gonna be talking to me about, the execution, either, hey, we didn't turn the ball over. This happened. You'll be talking to me about the game. So I'm always like focused on the game, but you know what, these guys, they, as I told them, they know how to do. They went to Illinois, played a great night game on national TV, and they won the game. They went to Iowa last year on senior day and beat Iowa. These guys know what to do. And if that in some way locked them in a little bit more this week, to each their own.
Kicking off our number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Numero dos.
I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Andrew Rogers. We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, and ESPN Tri-Cities. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline is our guy, Michael Rose-Ivey, former Nebraska Cornhusker, current high school head football coach of the Chrisman Bears. MRI, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. So get a little colder out in the morning, so it takes a little while to get the body warmed up. So.
Hey, I know how you feel. I think I'm even a little bit older than you are, so I understand the wear and tear that goes on there. Michael, as you look back at how things transpired against Maryland last week, you have a better feel for this than I do, obviously, haven't been in those locker rooms. But when you've got a quarterback who is struggling the way Jeff Sims is, and it seems to be kind of I'm sure it's a mental thing at this point for him. How would you feel if he gets trotted out as the starter on Saturday against Wisconsin? Does it affect your confidence at all? Does it affect kind of the attitude in the locker room? I know he's one of their guys, but with the way it's gone this year, how does that impact the way the team views what's about to happen?
I think it all depends on, how he's carrying himself. There's a couple ways a guy can go about it, right? I'm struggling. I'm not a part of the game plan, part of the team that I want to, or when I do get, I'm not doing my best. I'll sulk. I'll be a lone wolf. I'll kind of hold myself away from the team and, maybe finger point, or he could be a guy that, hey, we genuinely see that he's working. It's very unfortunate, the situation and the struggles he's had, but we see he's continuing to work. He's coming in the same guy. He's not blaming others for, his mistakes. It really just depends on that. I think that's that kind of individual aspect of those type of things, when a guy is struggling, especially at the quarterback side, because there's such a big spotlight on it, that, you want a guy that's confident in himself. You want a guy that, feels confident in what's being called and, what position he's being put in. So, I think it all depends on how his approach has been this week. Obviously they've given quite a few reps to a lot of guys this week. But yeah, you got to find the best guy to give you the best opportunity to win this week. And I think that's one thing. Already Husker fans talking about transfer portal and want to get another quarterback and stuff like that. I think the mindset to focus on what guy gives us the best chance to win each week, and let's go with him.
MRI, let's go back to last week quickly. The turnovers are the easy choice, but was there anything else you took away from that game that had you scowling at the product you were seeing on the field?
I just think the passing game, I hear the rhetoric. I know everybody wants to run the damn ball and, get back to smash my Husker football. But, man, in 2023, man, if you don't have a efficient, I'm not saying a crazy explosive, 350, 400 yards, but if you don't have an efficient passing game, right, where you can be consistent and completing, basic route concepts, your hitches when you're getting off coverage, taking a chance maybe on a deep ball that's structured and put together with some play action stuff. I just think that's the biggest thing. You look at, Nebraska almost outgained them in yards and only had 86 yards, passing, or something like that. So, just the inefficiency of the passing game, is always thing for me that I think that gets overlooked. Yeah, everybody wants to run the ball, but the way defense are structured nowadays, they're okay with giving up, 5 yards in the run game. Right, everything's about not giving up those big explosive pass plays. And Nebraska got to find a way to, first off, be just efficient enough to, put together drives, but then also be able to open up some things for their run game and for some bigger shots down the field. So I think just the passing efficiency is definitely something that has to be a priority in the future with whoever's going to be the guy beyond 2023.
Michael, when you watched the last drive of the game for Maryland last week, where they get the interception and then they drive down the field for the game-winning field goal, what did you think happened with the defense on that particular drive? They'd been pretty successful throughout the day. They had given up a couple big shots here and there over the course of the game. Was that just a matter of fatigue setting in, or how did you see that playing out for the defense in that final drive?
There's a lot of variables there. Obviously, you're 10-10 you know, and you get the interception, and you're feeling like, hey, this is one we're gonna get out of. You know, we'll be able to say, hey, hard fought win. You know, defense played well, helped the offense. You know, even when they struggled, yada yada yada. And then you get that interception, you coaches defense, right, on the sideline, and it's that sudden change, you know, where you gotta be a fireman, right? And it's the two mentalities of, you know, put out the fire and save lives, right? And in football, for a defensive person, right, putting out the fire, stopping offensive momentum, you know, not putting points on the board and saving lives. So, you know, you get into that mentality too many times, right? And you kind of get a little fatigued mentally. I think too, just, I mean, we knew Maryland had some ability to make big time pass plays. And I think when it was time for them to just be able to let, you know, Talia be him and kind of do him. I mean, that's what he's shown as flashes, you know what I mean? And I think at a certain point, you get some breakdown and some coverage spots, and you give some easy stuff up early in the drive, and it's like, oh, so we're already in field goal range, right? So I think it's a mixture of, you know, play calling. I think also the just sense of urgency in some spots. But then also, like I said, you answer that bell too many times in one night, right? You know, it gets tough mentally, right? But at the end of the day, right, if you're gonna be a black shirt, you want to, you know, talk about the prowess of the defense and them doing that stuff. Hey, like I said, you got to be a fireman. You know, if that bell rings, doesn't matter how tired, how sore, how mentally tired, what's going on off the field, et cetera, right? We got to put out the fire and we got to save lives. So, and I think with what they've done so far this year, you know, they've shown that they, again, can show that consistently. But, you know, just in that moment, they did not get the job done.
MRI Coach White has taken this defensive unit, which ranked out of the top 55 last season, and turned them into a top 10 defensive unit with an incredible increase in efficiency. What's impressed you most with this defense's turnaround under the first year Nebraska DC?
I think that it can be duplicated, you know what I mean, in multiple seasons. And the reason why I say that is you look at the list of guys, you know, the gotten snaps, you know, whether it be rotation, you know, playing maybe, hey, you're at the, you know, the weak safety, hey, this we're going to play you at the strong safety, you're at the rover, right? Or, you know, we're going to, you know, hey, you're playing some inside back, but let's get you on some rushes and maybe get you in third down and outside back as well and alternate them. But just a different amount of people that have been out to able to make an impact on the defense. Just shows that, for one, there's a structure there, there's a system there of not only defense, like concepts, but there's a system of how they teach, right? And it's something that can be easily duplicated through, you know, from older guys to younger guys. And I think that's something that's really impressed me, just someone who's looking at the structure of defense and what they're doing. You know, obviously you had the talk coming into the, you know, the Big Ten, right? How can the 3-3-5 stop the run game? You know what I mean? So you know, they've answered that pretty well. I think they've done a good job. I mean, it helps when, you know, you got Huskmaster. I think if he doesn't take the steps he did this year and play at the level I think he's played, I think there's a different story. But when you play that type of front, you know, you need at least one or two guys to really be able to take the pressure off of, you know, those linebackers, because we're asking them to be in run pass conflicts in this defense a lot. So, you know, like I said, I just think being able to teach the system and for a lot of people to get a lot of reps and be able to, you know, make contributions to the defense is probably the most impressive thing, you know, that I've seen.
MRI, when you look at the offense, and obviously they've struggled quite a bit. They've struggled in the passing game in particular. It seems like in the passing game, each of the three quarterbacks we've seen have struggled a little bit in the same areas in terms of reading and seeing the defense well and the coverage well. How much of that do you put on the individual quarterbacks themselves and their decision making? How much of you do you put it on the QB development, especially for guys like Harburg and Chubba Purdy that hadn't played a ton of college football before this year? And how much of it do you kind of say, hey, this has been a really beat up unit the entire season, and it's really just not fair to be able to judge them based on who's been out? Like, I guess not to play the blame game, but like, where do you put the responsibility for what we've seen?
It's kind of like going to Quick Trip and, you know, just hitting every fountain drink. You know, it's really a concoction, right?
Sure.
You know, it's not as cut and dry as I think many want it to be. I think all those things you mentioned have had a factor. You know, I think I was listening to the radio here in Kansas City talking about how NFL offenses are down, scoring yardage, things like that. And, as much as we think that there's these readily available, top-notch, gunslinging, ready-to-go quarterback, more than yesteryears or whatever the case may be, it really isn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at there's really, 3 legit guys, and it's a fight for 4 through 32, right? You look in college, it's very similar, right? You got the Drake Mays and Caleb Williams, and then everywhere else you got some guys that are playing well in some spots, but the star power is not there. So when you talk about quarterbacks coming in, even with Jeff Sims having some experience, and he struggled even where he came from at Georgia Tech. So I just think there's a mixture of all those things. I think Nebraska really has to look at what. Again, I understand the philosophy and wanting to get into this physical run game, but your quarterback can't be a part of 15 to 20 snaps of rushes, right? That can't be a part of your game plan every single week because you're going to have those injuries, right? You're playing a physical big team. You're playing a physical conference, right? So I think it's a mixture of all those things. I think they're going to have to really look at what kind of quarterback they really want, right? I know they want to run, but, if you can get these running backs like the way they've gotten them and have a room and stocked up they do, obviously have to produce at the level you think they're going to produce it, but, I think you can find other ways to get the run game involved. But I really just think Nebraska has to really look at the type of quarterback they want. I'm not saying a guy that's going to be straight stand up in the pocket, sit there, but you got to look at a guy that can throw the football, can be efficient with the football, and be a distributor. And I think too, you got to have the receivers in there as well. That's been a thing that's room. You've had a lot of young guys have to step up. The route separation may have not always been there. Maybe even where the routes need to be at, when they need to be there, maybe isn't there just quite yet. So I think it's a big mixture of a lot of those things, and it's something I think they're definitely going to address. Seeing Rule how he's approached this year, I know that's going to be something he's going to look at very, very closely.
MRI, is there anything Wisconsin presents that has you thinking Nebraska is no match for this team?
Nothing I can say. Obviously their defense is their defense. They're going to be who they are defensively, which I think that's the biggest worry. If you get into another game, kind of similar to this one where, your defense is out there quite a bit. I'm looking at the Wisconsin, just checking out the box score from last week. They threw the ball 45 times last week. They had some success making some big plays with the receivers. So, I would say there's nothing that would say that, Nebraska can't win this game. I think that as much as Rule wants to play out the psyche, I think the psyche might be there for some guys. You're going to Camp Randall. It's a ruckus environment. It's a different environment. It's one you hear about, right, when you first sign on to go to the Big Ten school. So, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting matchup. Again, the offense versus their defense, kind of my biggest worry, right? Create negative plays, bad field position, short yardage field position for the defense to have to play and defend. But hopefully they can, find a way to be able to consistently move the football and get some stops. And not a lot of big plays. That's what is one thing, as well as they have been playing on defense. That those big pass plays, especially untimely third down, trying to get off the field type of things. That's something that Nebraska has struggled a little bit with this year. So definitely want to make sure with how Wisconsin threw the ball last week that they can get off the field.
How about this offensively? Nebraska will have to do what better than the Badgers in order to win?
Better than their offense?
Yeah, better than their offense.
Not turning the ball over. That's the layup, but it's like, man, you can't make the layup, then why we shoot threes? It's one of those things, right? They got to hold on to the football. I think it's more than just the no turnovers. Like I said, being able to get first downs on drives where we obviously want to score every drive. But right, with some drives, hey, we just need 2 first downs. If we got to punt it, let's punt it. Let's get our defense in a good field position, and let them help us win on the field position battle. But yeah, I just think that the turnovers and anything, the quarterback play has to. I'm not saying the quarterback, whoever plays, or the sum of quarterbacks that play, have to equal the production of the Wisconsin quarterback or be better if the defense is at a lights out level and obviously doing their job. But I think you got to clearly look at, hey, at the end of the day, our quarterback played better than the other quarterback and made the plays and then didn't turn the ball over. So I think they got a shot though. I mean, it's not something I don't think they're going there thinking, hey, we're hoping and praying. I think this is going to be a good physical battle, and I think maybe good to see these two type of defense on the field together. Hopefully Nebraska's offense can get some things rolling and put some points up.
MRI, before we let you go here, let's get a little prediction from you on how this game's gonna go. You think Nebraska's able to pull this one out?
I think they can. I was seeing that interview from one of the Wisconsin players that kind of had that, some guys they figure out what they want to be here, standard, all that stuff. So I think Wisconsin's going to come out, a little edge, but, I think it probably comes out somewhere, I want to say 20s, but, man, I don't even know. I'll say 17-13 Nebraska.
All right, there we go. That's Michael Rose-Ivey. MRI, I know we won't be able to catch you next week because of Thanksgiving, and I'm hoping we'll be talking to you before a bowl game. But if not, I just want to say thank you so much for all the time you've given us this year. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we will catch up at some point during the offseason.
We're thankful for you.
Yes, sir.
No, hey, man, I appreciate you guys having me back on this year. It's always fun to talk to you guys and, still be a part of the, Husker community. So I really appreciate you guys for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely, MRI. Once a Husker, always a Husker.
Thanks, MRI.
Yes, sir.
That's our guy, Michael Rose-Ivey, joining us to preview Wisconsin as he's done every week this year. Really appreciate all the time that he's given the show over the course of the season. You can tell his passion for Nebraska football is still very strong, even as he's back in his home area around Kansas City.
Just like the passion of one Trev Alberts, who we haven't really gotten to yet to talk about that extension that he got, because you brought up a great point with BC the other day about, I say the other day, it was yesterday or 2 days ago.
All the days kind of run together.
But
I love that part.
You brought up a great point of how football is kind of like the deciding vote on if Trev is successful or worth his extension.
Almost nothing else matters.
And nothing else matters, which is interesting to me, but because I know there's a lot of truth to that, but I don't want to believe it because there's other things that surround Trev's duties.
So the funny thing about it is, right, and I mean from a public perception standpoint, he might leave the athletic program in a much better place than it was when he took over from Bill Moose, right? That's definitely on the table. But from a public perception standpoint, if the Matt Rule hire doesn't work out, he's a bad AD. That's all it is. Like in Power 5 football, athletic directors are judged on one thing and one thing only, and that is their college football head coach hires. That's it. If you don't hire the right football coach, nothing else matters. Like there's a couple places in the country, like Kansas, maybe North Carolina, Duke, if they're exceptions where you get, hey, it's the basketball coach. But like if Bill Self were to retire, right, the Kansas AD would be judged on who.
When John Shire came in.
Yes, for Duke.
That was a huge hire for them.
A bigger hire than Mike Elko was, right? And Mike Elko's a great hire. But if John Shire doesn't work out, then the Duke AD is getting fired. It doesn't matter how good Mike Elko is, right? Same thing with Kansas.
What about if John Cook were to retire?
That's an interesting one. Now, it's a little bit different because with where Nebraska's at, I think they'd kind of have their pick of basically
they could get whoever they
whatever
really want. It's like Saban retiring.
Yeah, right? Like Alabama could get whoever.
But it's like Coach
now,
K
you
retiring.
Still have to get it right.
Yeah.
Right? You still have to get it right. But it is, I think Nebraska would be in a better position to get the volleyball coaching hire right, because the pool of candidates is whoever you want it to be.
Well, yes, to some extent, but also which is what we've seen with Coach Rule. You can pay him anything. Yes. Like they have the money to pay whoever. You could go out and say, "Hey, Saban, I'll give you $20 million." Nebraska would fork over $20 million.
Sure.
So like football has the money to get that hired too.
The other issue with volleyball in terms of like in Nebraska, that would matter for Trev Alberts and his job or whoever the AD is. But the truth of the matter is, as popular as volleyball is here in Nebraska, and this is not denigrating volleyball at all, it still is not in the neighborhood of football. It just isn't. Not saying it's not the quality of football, not saying it shouldn't be, but for just the pure volume of people that care about it, Trev Alberts will be judged on how successful Matt Rule's coaching tenure is at Nebraska. If 3 years from now, Nebraska's fighting for Big Ten championships and spots in that 12-team playoff.
Right.
Resounding success, no matter what it looks like in any other facet of the program. That's how college ADs work. You are tied to, we talked about it with Cole and the Kansas State job. Gene Taylor's success is because
heavily dependent on
Chris Kleiman being so successful. And we heard all the other things that he's done well, right? He hired a great basketball coach that took him to the Elite Eight, and Jeremy Tang, although I think they're struggling a little bit this year. You've got the facilities that they upgraded. They upgraded the stadium. They've done all these things. But guess what? If Chris Kleiman wasn't good, Gene Taylor's out of here.
You know, it's funny that you say that because, yeah, that's a huge piece to it all. But the little things you have to do right, too, like stadium renovation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it's a big price tag, but like that's a little thing in a big pool in terms of, hey, are you going to stay in this role or are you going to get kicked out of it? The other thing with that was what Trev Alberts was able to pull off on volleyball day.
Yeah.
That's
a huge deal.
There's maybe 5 ADs in the country that had or have the stones to do something like that, because that's so nationally televised.
Yeah.
And it wasn't huge opponents. Like, let's not get that wrong.
No, it was UNK and Omaha.
It was all this state and Wayne State.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Wayne State's in the state.
Yeah.
Well, D2 and D1.
Yeah.
Right. That's all it was. And
it wasn't like they got Wisconsin in here and that was 92,000.
If you don't sell that out, that will get shown on TV and you will get laughed at nationally for not selling out the way that the buildup was for that event. Because he had such I'm going to use the word strength here. You know, we kind of laughed with Michigan earlier on saying like they didn't show any strength. It takes a lot of strength as an AD to be like, I'm going to take this risk.
Yeah, it's conviction. I think it's a lot of conviction as an AD to put yourself out there. And I'll give him credit because I thought like when they first announced this, I was like, man, if they get like 70,000, that'd be awesome. And I think Trev and John Cook were both like, yeah, we want to sell out. And they put themselves out there and they got it. Now, you do kind of have to talk about the differences between what makes you successful at a place like Omaha, where Trev was the AD before, and where he's at now. Obviously, you had that article from the Flatwater Free Press a couple weeks ago about how the Omaha athletic department is not in a great financial position. And they hadn't been for a while, to be fair.
Which is hard to like.
But it's such a different job is my point.
It is a different job, but it's hard to believe too, because there's only one source that like wrote about the memo.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that it's true. I don't know.
It has to be. I mean, you don't just take a memo and say that,
I'm not assuming it's Trev's fault, but the point is the job is so much different, right? Nebraska's probably not ever going to be in a position where they're like, hey, we're at a budget shortfall. We need like a CFO in here to run our athletic department. Whereas smaller schools, places like Omaha, Group of 5 schools, places that don't have football, it's a way different job. It's way more, hey, we have to figure out how to make ends meet, versus Nebraska's just saying like, hey, if we get this thing rolling right, we never have to worry about money again. Coming up next, we've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We expect moving forward that every game that we play in, the month of November and then December to be really important games with consequences, games where winning and losing means something. We have to become very comfortable with that. We have to almost become inoculated to that pressure. And so to go on the road and play on national TV and know that we're playing a really good team on, at their place, at the start of the fourth quarter, they're going to play jump around and, it's college football and there's some things on the line for us. I think it's really, really important for the growth of our team. And I hope we go out, we knock it out and play really well. So it's a tremendous opportunity. And it's really, as I'm always looking about just like growth and pushing the program forward. These are the moments I think that push a program forward. And so, we'll get to the off season and last week's game will be something that we talk about a lot, right? It's be something that we grow from quite a bit. And I hope that this week's game will be something that when we get to the offseason, we talk about a lot, we grow from. And that to me is how these young players become champions someday. This is playing at Nebraska. You play on prime time and you play in big games.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Andrew Rogers.
Hello.
We heard Coach Rule there talking about strategy and motivation and things like that. Coaches make substitutions during the game all the time to get their best players on the field. and to get them in the best position to be successful. When you're going out with your friends and you've been drinking or impaired in any way, you've got to make a substitution to make sure you've got the best person, the person who is not impaired, behind the wheel. It's time to make a substitution there. Impaired driving is deceptively dangerous. You got to make a substitution, get the right person behind the wheel, the person who is not impaired. This is the message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. I do want to talk about Nebraska. We got some keys from Michael Rose-Ivey there in our interview with him, but we've got our 3 keys to the game as well. I try really hard to not just have this be the low-hanging fruit of like, hey, stop turning the freaking ball over.
I know.
Because that's the key to beat all the keys, right? And so I do have a turnover-related one in here, but I tried to get very specific because it's, first of all, at this point in the season, it's not practical to just say like, hey, don't turn the ball over, because that's not something they've shown the ability to do. And I don't even know that it's practical to say, hey, win the turnover margin, because I don't know that that's a thing that they can do. What I did for turnovers, and this sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I'm really not, I swear to God. Fewer than 5 turnovers, so 4 or less, and I need better than a -2 margin. So if they have 4, I need Wisconsin to have 3. If they have 3, I need Wisconsin to have 2. Like, I need it. I'm not even asking them to break even. I genuinely think if
Sounds
they can,
like me last week when I said just be -1,
right?
You're giving them an extra leg at -2.
Well, I if they can keep it to -2 and under 5 turnovers, I think they're fine. And that's crazy to say, but and obviously timing of turnovers matters and location of the turnovers matters. So that all goes in there as well. But I really like it's too, I guess, optimistic to say win the turnover margin at this point. But if they can just, shoot themselves in the toe, then instead of shooting their entire leg off, I think they're fine.
Well, speaking about going toe-to-toe, it's important that Nebraska goes toe-to-toe with Wisconsin's running backs, and just kind of matching them yard for yard in the run department. You don't have the bodies to fully do it at Nebraska that you do at Wisconsin, but Nebraska just has to keep the ball out of their quarterback's hands at all costs. And that goes into stop turning the football over. But that's not the key. The key is giving Emmett Johnson his touches. He needs 20-plus touches in this game. I don't care how he gets them. I don't care if there's 25 on the ground. I don't care if it's 15 on the ground and, 5 in the receiving category. But he needs to get 20-plus touches in this game because of his effectiveness in past games. Last game specifically, 4.9 yards a carry on 17 touches. We know that Nebraska's quarterbacks struggle when they drop back and they try to dump it off downfield. How about we just, if it is the option,
whatever it is,
just make an easy flip to Emmett Johnson and let him go. Just let the man go, let the man eat, give him at least 20 touches in this game.
I like that as well. And, it might be easier to go toe-to-toe in a situation where we don't know the health status of Braylon Allen. He only got 3 carries last week, and I don't think any after the first 2 drives of the game. Much easier to go toe-to-toe with Wisconsin's running backs with Ches Malusi's been out for most of the year, and Braylon Allen's been banged up as well. My second one here is play to your strengths. That sounds like just an offensive thing, but it's a defensive thing too.
Sounds like just a tough thing.
It is a tough
for this Nebraska team to do.
But they do have strengths, and I genuinely believe that. And that's, if you want to get as specific as the quarterback position, right? If it's Jeff Sims out there, you really have to limit the situations you're putting him in where you're asking him to do things he has not shown that he's capable of this year. That's playing to a strength, playing away from a weakness, however you want to put it, right? I'm talking about making sure Emmett Johnson gets the ball, like you said. That's playing to a strength. He's shown he's a strength of this team at this point. I'm talking about, involving some more quarterback rollouts where they don't have to see through as many bodies to make a decision on where to throw the ball. I'm talking about on defense. Your strength is that defensive line right now. Play to the strength of the defensive line. Get pressure on the quarterback. The secondary has been a little bit banged up. You're still missing Deshaun Singleton. You've got Quentin Newsom coming off an injury. Malcolm Hartzog didn't practice before the Maryland game, so he's been banged up. You got a bunch of guys out there that are either playing banged up or are not available, like Deshaun Singleton. So an area that was a strength in the secondary has been a little bit banged up this year. They've been beaten on those double move routes, right? Well, you get to the quarterback real quick, they don't have time to make that second move, okay? Play to the strength of the defense. That's the defensive line getting pressure on the quarterback. Play to the strength of the offense, which is I'm not totally sure. But honestly, it might be the offensive line. I thought the offensive line played great last week. I think
that's why Emmett Johnson could have a big game this week.
Again, so play to your strengths. It sounds vague, but those are some specific examples of what I think that looks like.
Keeping Wisconsin's running backs off the scoreboard is my second key. I know I'm like heavily into the run right now, and I'll get away from it in a moment, but Nebraska has held the opposition without a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games. Wisconsin makes their money scoring on the ground. You look at their team total stats, 17 rushing touchdowns on the season, which is obviously like almost 2. Pretty close to 2, 1.7
a game.
Yeah, something like that. 1 passing touchdown a game, or less than 1 passing touchdown a game is what they average. I think they have 8 on the year right now. It's important to shut down Braylon Allen. I know that people are going to sit here and say, like, well, Andrew, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been great this year. But what Braylon Allen loves to do is be great against the Huskers.
That's true. He sure does.
In 2021, what did he do against the Huskers?
Like 228, I think.
Something like that, and 3 touchdowns, right? What did he do last year against the Huskers? And this was with Ches Malusi.
Yeah.
He had almost 100 yards rushing and on 18 carries alone. That's pretty darn good if you're averaging roughly 5 yards a carry. It's shutting down Braylon Allen in this game. That's a point of emphasis. I know that Nebraska has one of the top rushing defenses in college football. It's time to showcase that on primetime
against a premier running back. And that's why the status of Braylon Allen and his health is so key to this game, because if he's not healthy or not available from Wisconsin, that obviously makes Nebraska's life just even a little bit easier. My third and final key here, again, this is going to sound vague, but I'm going to give you some specifics as well. Continue to build on the areas that have improved. There's been a lot of things this year, and I know turnovers hasn't been one of them, but there's been a lot of things this year that have gotten dramatically better since the start of the season. Penalties, for instance. I'm not asking it to go another full game with only 1 or 0 penalties, but don't regress to the procedural penalties and things like that. If you make penalties, have them be aggressive penalties where you're trying to make plays. Don't regress to having unforced errors in the penalty game. The offensive line has played better and better and better. Continue to improve in that area. Lean into that area. Don't regress to where we're having conversations about the offensive line again. And again, I'm going to bring up Emmett Johnson one more time. Emmett Johnson seems to be finding his groove. Let him eat a little bit. And that goes into the offensive line too. Let them get their fingers in the dirt and start popping people off the line of scrimmage, and let Emmett Johnson be the guy that carries you in this game, because he's about the only guy on the offense that I've felt good about in the last few weeks.
My last key, and we heard Coach Rule talk about him yesterday, kick more field goals. It's not just because I love Tristan Alvano.
It's because I love points. I love
Tristan Alvano. I love points. The message all week, I've said it. What has it been, Ravi?
Take the points.
Take the points. Be okay with settling or kicking a short field goal with Tristan Alvano. It's fine. Your defense can pick up the slack. Play it safe on drives. Don't get cute. And what? Trust your defense.
And take the points.
All
right, coming up next, we'll wrap up hour number 2 on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio. My headphones stopped working for some reason.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, that's my favorite. We're gonna try and
that's
unplug
my
here.
fault, probably.
Yeah, nope. I still only have it in one ear, so that's terrific.
You gotta like mess around with this guy.
Yeah, so that's not me. This one's me, I think.
No, this is the power cord for the box.
Oh, my bad.
You unplugged everybody. Don't worry, I've done that once before.
My bad,
and,
my bad.
That was when DB and I were doing the show. And
Yeah.
he's like, wait a second. And I'm like, sorry, wrong cord.
Yep, nope. I still only have it in one ear, so that's lovely. Anyway, we are back here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill live on the H&H Chevrolet stage. Andrew Rogers trying to fix my headphones, which I appreciate. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are brought to you by our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. They have 4 great Omaha area locations, and they are a local family-owned business through and through. They've been in Omaha for over 25 years, and they have been voted first place best of Omaha 18 years running, because not only do they provide you great service on any make and model, but they also give back to the community with their Dingman's Give Back program. Every car repaired, they give back to the community. Go check them out at dingmans.com to learn more about their services as well as the Give Back program.
I went there yesterday.
Oh, so yeah, how was your visit?
It was fantastic. The experience was awesome. It was quick. I was in and out. Getting an estimate is not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Now, granted, I have to get the repairs done.
Sure.
So it was easy for me to be like, all right, I'm going to come here because you guys are my people, and I'm gonna
support our people.
Yeah, I'm going to support my friends. So I walked in though, and I'm like, have you ever walked into like a showroom at a car dealership, but like it looked like a doctor's office? Like that's exactly what Dingman's looked and felt like.
You gotta have like the waiting room a little bit.
And the chairs were so comfortable.
Yeah.
They had like the coffee, the little coffee bar though, which is why I kind of merged doctor's office and showroom.
Yeah,
there were motorcycles in like the room with you. It was cool. And look, I worked with Brandon and he was fantastic. He assessed my car. He got me my estimate in 15 minutes.
That's incredible.
I was in and out, no joke, in 20 minutes.
That's awesome. That's why Dingman's is the best. We love our friends over at Dingman's Collision Center. So there's a collision headed for JMU and the NCAA. James Madison University is in their second year of transitioning from FCS to
almost done
FBS
almost
football.
Done.
And they've been remarkably successful in their transition. In their first 20 games, I believe they're 17-3.
Which is it kind of expected, because this was a team that was in the FCS championship game in 2017 and 19.
So I don't know that it's ever expected to this level.
Yeah, 9-0 isn't expected.
Yeah,
but a successful team
I think
when they
10-0
transition.
now. Yeah. So I think they were expected to be successful, but even like Appalachian State, when they made the transition, they were a super successful program. It took them a couple years to kind of get going, and they've still never reached these heights.
Beautiful baseball field.
Kurt Cignetti might be one of the best, just full stop, one of the best coaches in college football over at JMU. But so for people that aren't aware, because Nebraska's never really been in this position, but when you transition from Division II or FCS to Division I or FBS, respectively, there is a probation period, and
everybody has to deal with it.
And this going into the situation. That's the most important part for me in this JMU situation, is as you make this process, this is not a JMU specific situation. James Madison knew what they were getting into. They knew what the rule was, and they applied for a waiver a couple times. They applied before this season started to eliminate their second probation year, and they have another waiver asking them to allow them to be eligible for a bowl game this season. Both waivers were denied. And so I want to explain real quick, and then I know you've got some thoughts here as well, Andrew, but I want to explain to people real quick why this rule exists.
Yeah, please do. Because it's important.
It is, because you could kind of just be like, well, this is dumb. If they're good already, just let them do their thing. But it's actually there to protect the school and the coaches, right? Because
school, coaches, and the NCAA.
Yes, right. So part of it is you have to show viability as a member of that next level up. That's how it protects the NCAA. But it protects the coaches, because most schools, when they transition from either D2 to D1 or FCS to FBS, are bad. It takes a while because you're upgrading a lot of times facilities. You're obviously adding more scholarships. You're trying to upgrade your roster. A lot of times you're upgrading your coaching staff. It is a huge transition. I mean, we've looked at the transition from a group of 5 school to the Big 12 for a lot of those Big 12 teams, and none of them have more than 2 conference wins. The best one is 2-5 this year, right? It's a big transition just to go from a mid-major conference or a group of 5 conference to a major conference. It's even more so to go from FCS to FBS. Now, the rule is in place so that coaches and schools have time without the expectations of, well, why haven't you made an NCAA tournament yet if it's basketball? Why haven't you made a bowl game yet if it's football? Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? It's a ramp-up period to be able to fully compete at that level. That's why the rule exists in the first place. Now, James Madison is an outlier for sure. The outlier of outliers, even because of how dominant they've been in their first 2 years in FBS football. I understand them wanting to have waivers. I also understand the NCAA denying those waivers to not set a precedent that teams should be successful faster than is reasonable. Congratulations to James Madison for being awesome. Like, I fully mean that. But that is not what you should expect from a transition from a lower level to a higher level.
They are the outlier. is really all this is. And I get the frustration. The team is really stinking good, and a New Year's Six bowl game could do wonders for the school, both in recruiting and
financially. I mean,
and for revenue purposes, right? Because all that does is just give you money.
Well,
right?
and we see this in the NCAA tournament all the time, right? When these little schools, not just the actual money that you get paid, right? But when these little schools make a Sweet 16 run or whatever, their enrollment applications skyrocket. Their visibility among the country skyrockets. There are so many peripheral financial benefits for a New Year's Six game or an NCAA tournament run or whatever that, aside from the actual money you just get, there's so many other benefits as well.
Now, you brought up why the rule is in place, and it's really just to ensure that any school applying for the transition is committed, right? Like, you're committed to the move. Because it's not cheap to transition.
No.
You go from like a $5,000 application fee to $5 million when you want to move into FBS. So that's just one piece. And that's like if you want immediate effect, right? You take that $5 million hit. But you also have to have a minimum of 16 varsity sports, with at least 6 of those being male and 8 being female. Each school must offer a minimum of 200 scholarships that total at least $4 million each year. So it's not inexpensive to be a part of the FBS. That's why the NCAA has this, because if you can't make it work, it's kind of like okay, well, that's why we didn't just let you come over when you had a really good team. And then all of a sudden you make a bowl game in your first year, you stink, and you're like, I want to go back to the FCS. It's a way to kind of like breach that barricade of, okay, you're not just going to pound through us and just take advantage of the system. It's
purgatory, basically. Right. You can go back down if you financially are not viable.
And so here's where I'm at with the James Madison situation, though, because they have made it work, and financially they have shown that they're in good shape. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they're in good shape.
Right? Because very few schools are going to commit $5 million up front. And then an additional $4 million over 2 years, only to make a bowl game and drop back down. And James Madison is here for the long term, the long haul. They have committed to the higher level of Division I athletics and the FBS. So my point here for not just fixing the rule, but maybe altering the rule. Okay? Because James Madison has been good for a while. If any team that meets the requirements early, they should be eligible for postseason no later than the second year. Okay, the first year I'm good with the NCAA keeping the rule the same. But by year 2, if they've shown that they've been able to put front the money again and they're committed to being a part of Division I athletics in the FBS, then you should allow them to have like an early entry to whatever. Because they've proven that they're equipped to handle the challenge.
And I would even be okay if the financial barrier to be eligible early was a little bit higher, to prove that, like, not necessarily a larger entry fee, but like a being able to show proof of being able to fund more scholarships, like that part of the financial. If you had to reach a higher barrier and show that you have the financial wherewithal to be a longstanding member of the Division I community, I'd be okay if you could show that, to say, hey, yeah, like, we're okay here. And then you say, yeah, you can go ahead and be eligible. I'm okay with that standard being higher in order to reach that goal.
And look, it's a shame JMU can't compete this year. But it's only a shame because they're really, really good at football. And they have an undefeated record. But if they sucked,
we would not be having this conversation.
Nobody would bat an eye.
Even if they were okay. Like, if they're like 7-5 by the end of this year. Like last year, they were, I think, 8-3. Nobody had this conversation.
Right.
I know they still
first year and they understood the rules, but now that they're undefeated, they're like, hey, we could be in a New Year's Six bowl game because the outcome is greater for them. That doesn't mean the rule just changes for you either. But I am on JMU's side, and the NCAA, we live in a world now where NIL is king. A player can transfer for free and not have to sit out at least one time. There should be now an added rule where if you can provide us with the paperwork that shows that you are committed and you have the funding to be here for a long time, and you're not just planning on bouncing, that you can't compete. And now, look, all hope isn't lost for JMU. There's 41 bowl games. there may still be a spot if there aren't enough 6-6 teams.
Coming up next, we've got Mike Sautter.
We will be back. We will be back.
Of Nebraska. Ethan Piper's mom's here.
You fight if it means you.
Welcome you into
We will be back.
And go win yourself a football game.
Woo!
And go win yourself a football game.
Woo!
We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Mike Sautter.
Yeah.
Mike Sautter.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Mike Sautter.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We are brought to you by Rockbrook Camera.
Yes, sir.
They are not just about trying to sell you a camera. If you're a professional, like my guy Mike Sautter over here, taking
Or unprofessional like me.
photos of all of the events that he covers, which we'll get to here in a little bit, or if you're just a regular guy taking pictures like me and Andrew, Rockbrook Camera has you covered. They've got the latest technology like mirrorless cameras, and they've got unlimited support after the sale to help you learn about your new equipment. You can trade in your old gear to upgrade to your new stuff, or you can try out their extensive rental department if you're still trying to figure out what you want and need. rockbrookcamera.com is where you can find all this information, as well as information on their rental department, or you can visit them at 168th and West Center in Omaha, or 70th and Pioneer in Lincoln. Mike Sautter, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm feeling great today.
You came in spicy this morning.
I'm feeling real good today.
I don't know if he came in spicy or on a high.
Got a little extra sleep.
Yeah.
Meaning, like
4 full hours.
Yeah,
I got a full 40 minutes.
He's like Elf.
Fell asleep on the couch about 11.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to watch that boxing match and didn't quite happen for me. And then Shane's over here making me nervous, fixing something. Okay.
Who's scheduling title fights on a Thursday, by the way? Come on.
It's because of the F1 races.
I don't care.
I'm just saying that's why.
Yeah, that's dumb. I don't care.
It's dumb.
Robbie's here to not care.
So I
Not
fell,
about
I
F1.
fell
Come on,
asleep,
man.
I fell asleep on the couch about 11.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna yawn
Yeah.
right now. and then actually after watching the Wake Forest Utah game, I basically fell asleep.
Hunter South, 20 points, no big deal.
Bruh, he was so good last night.
He's pretty good.
It's
crazy when you actually let him play
unleash.
basketball. Like, he might be pretty good.
Take him off the leash.
And
I'm talking to you, Mark Few.
and you actually get him in a weight program and nutrition and stuff like that. Yeah, all the people that poo-pooed him locally, there's a lot of just casual fans
Sautter
like,
has
oh, I
receipts.
told you. Yeah. Like
So,
that kid's he's been amazing since Wade. He's been fantastic.
A lot of those people.
Did you see the dunk he had?
Yes. Yeah,
Tip dunk?
He's very good.
Hunter Salas has been amazing since he got to college. They just never used him
Well,
properly.
yeah. I'm just saying he had 20 and he shot like
8 for 13.
8 of 13.
8
That's
for
pretty
13.
good.
That'll do. 20 points on 13 shots is getting it done.
Yeah.
So I know you've got, speaking of basketball and high school basketball around here, obviously Hunter South, Miller North guy, just a reminder in case people forgot.
Did you go to Miller North?
I did go to Miller North.
Oh.
I don't, not a lot of people know that.
That's a
Did they have a coach that's retiring?
Fred Petito. There we go. We love the GOAT. But
he's the GOAT. Like I don't think there's any argument about that.
I was saying, I'm not even saying that tongue in cheek. Like, I think he is the GOAT.
Like, I don't know if you can. I mean, there's only a few others that you can throw in that conversation, and they're like 8-man guys.
Yeah.
So
you've got a crazy schedule as high school basketball starts to get ramped up here, as well as you're obviously covering Nebraska basketball and Creighton as well. What you were telling us before we got on the air here, what your schedule looks like as you're trying to weave all these things together. What's your weekend look like?
it's a lot right now, bro.
Yeah.
So went to 2 practices last night.
Okay, who'd you see last night?
Saw Gretna and Creighton Prep.
Okay.
Boys basketball. Both will be very much so in the conversation again.
Okay.
And then today I'm going to Kearney.
All right. Our friends out in ESPN Tri-Cities.
Yeah, gonna go to Kearney for gonna go to basketball practice at Kearney High, see the Bearcats and their new addition out there, which excited about. So see, just how good he is and all that, and check out Coach Baranik's squad. And then gonna go to the 6-man state championship game. If you've never seen a 6-man game, it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of points.
Yeah, gonna be a lot of points.
So we were talking about this a couple weeks.
That game is always freezing too. Like, it is always freezing cold. It is cold. Like, every year. I've been out there, I guess, 3 of the last 5 years, I guess. Or this will be 3 of the last 5, and it's always cold.
freezing.
The last 2 times it's always freezing out there. And they play at UNK. It's great. It's perfect location and everything. So go into that, and then I'll get home about, 12:30 or so, and then go to Millard North practice from 8 to 10 in the morning, and then jump in the car and go to Sioux Falls for Nebraska versus Oregon State tomorrow afternoon. That game's at 3?
I believe so.
3:00,
Mhm.
and then that's right. And then Sunday, I don't know, do some yard work or something, and then
You don't need to do yard work. It's fine.
yeah, you got. I don't know about. I don't know if you know me, but I like my yard to look pretty good.
You've got got a little yard work OCD.
And then Monday, Tuesday, state championship games starting with 8 men on. I think it's 10, right? It's the first one.
Yeah, it starts early.
10:30 or something.
I think it's 10, 10:30.
Yeah,
It's 10:15.
10:15. Yeah,
Split the difference.
I
There
just
we go.
know I'll be there about 8. So,
And then you'll be there in plenty of
and
time.
then be there, and then whenever it gets over, Monday and Tuesday, be great. Some really good games, I think, on Monday. And then the C1, the Class C games, I think, will be pretty good. And then obviously West Side and Elkhorn South, I think, has a chance to be all right. On Monday night, on Tuesday night, and then
we don't have to pretend here.
And then Wednesday morning and Wednesday morning.
I mean, come on.
Then Wednesday,
We'll just
our
move
guy,
past that comment.
our guy, I'm just ignoring. Wednesday, our guy Jacob and I will jump in the car and
little road tripping,
head to Kansas City for
Blackout Wednesday, huh?
What is that a thing?
Yeah, it is right before Thanksgiving.
I don't know.
It is. It's the drunkest day of the year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay,
That's why you and Jacob are partying in Kansas City,
yeah,
right?
sure. We're going.
You and Jacob are big partiers.
Yeah,
I've known Jacob for a long time.
He's
I've
never had a sip
in his whole life.
in his life.
I've never seen him
He
take
won't.
one, so
He won't do it.
That's fine.
Yeah. That's his thing.
Yeah.
That's good. Fine. Good for him.
I don't think I've ever heard him swear either.
Yeah, it's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So I'm going. So we'll be in Kansas City on Wednesday and Thursday for Creighton.
There you go.
Creighton in that MTE in the what's it called? The Hall of Fame Classic or whatever.
Something like that.
And yeah, it should be good. I mean, they play Loyola. Creighton plays Loyola.
Yeah, Loyola Chicago on Wednesday.
And then the winner of Colorado State and I forget the fourth team.
I was expecting it to be Colorado State.
So they play 2 games, and then we'll get home on Thanksgiving night about, I don't know, 11, 12, something.
Let's start with Nebraska basketball. I know you're
Sure.
heading up there to Sioux Falls to see that Oregon State game, and we haven't had a ton of time to catch up on Nebraska basketball this week, but they've started 4-0. Obviously not like a murderer's row of opponents so far, but that's kind of what the early season is for. Oregon State, kind of their first test tomorrow. It's certainly their first Power 5 opponent. I mean, it's a Power 5 opponent. It's,
for
it's
sure.
more
First game on the road.
Yes,
Or,
more
away from
away
Lincoln.
from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a neutral site at Sioux Falls there. What have just been your thoughts early this season on Nebraska basketball, kind of compared to the expectations?
Yeah, defensively they've been great.
Yeah,
right.
right.
So
That's the bright spot.
they've been really good defensively. Ryder's actually a pretty good team. Ryder didn't shoot the ball at all very well. Well, neither team did, I guess, in the first half. But defensively they've been awesome. And Coach Hoiberg on Monday after they beat Ryder said, "Hey, defense has to be our constant," because they didn't shoot it very well, but the defense held the day. So looking for more of that. They got Juwan Gary back, which was a huge plus. I mean, he played great. He was really good off the bench, even on was that Wednesday night, and he was really good. And then second half they just exploded offensively. So they got
Tominaga going a little bit.
Tominaga hit a couple threes, right? And then he's got to be a little more consistent, right? So
do you think he's feeling the weight on his shoulders this year because he came in with all that hype?
You don't pay attention. I don't think he pays attention to it very much.
But it is different being the top of the scouting report.
Yeah,
coming
it's
into
totally
the year,
different.
right? Like maybe not the hype, but
Mhm.
like the attention that other teams are going to be paying attention.
Yeah. So he'll be fine. He's so capable of. I mean, he starts the game 0 for 5 from 3 or something,
he's
and then
got
he'll
such a
hit
quick
like
shot off a screen.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't need a dribble to create for himself.
No, he's pulled up and cashed one. I mean, it was like 4 feet behind the 3-point line on Wednesday night, and just cashed one. I was like, whoa! And then he's good. Rink mass has been
He's
as
playing really well.
expected,
Yeah,
right?
playing really
So
well.
he was 2 rebounds away from another double and 3 in a row. They're 4-0, right? Like they're doing what they should be doing, 4-0, and best start to the season in the Fred Hoiberg era. So I think they scheduled on purpose a little bit,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
they should, again, like I said, should get, there's only, well, I don't know. Now Duquesne looks pretty good. So Wednesday night they play Duquesne in Lincoln, and Duquesne's pretty tough. Like that isn't going to be, that's
it's not an instant W.
Yeah, that one is, you don't just.
I don't think
chalk that
any
one
game
up
really is an instant W
for them. Yeah, but you don't just chalk that one up. I think I'll be probably watching that. So yeah, that's it. I mean, Oregon State has been just okay, right?
Right.
But it is a different kind of feel. It's a neutral site game. It's not, you probably just bus up there, right? It's not,
but you're leaving Pinnacle Bank for the first time.
Yeah,
You're
leaving the comfort of that. So I don't know, they've been good. You get Gary back. You're waiting on, Ramel Lloyd and Blaze Cada. I don't know if Blaze actually. It's going to be a while, like if he plays at all. So that's something to keep an eye on. And Ramel Lloyd's the last one. So they're finally kind of getting everybody back and healthy and playing together. And the one thing will be interesting. What do you do with Juwan? Do you bring him off the bench?
Sure.
It's Juwan, Gary, Josiah Alec, right? That position. Like, what do you both provide a ton of energy, both make a bunch of plays, both are athletic and, can get on the floor for loose balls and stuff. But the one thing, Juwan Gary hit 2 threes, and that looks a lot better than what it has, in the past.
Yeah.
So if he can continue to do that, they just got to find a little more consistency, I guess, from a scoring standpoint from the guards. So Jamarcus Lawrence has been pretty good. Like he's not there to score 20 points, right? Or 15 even. He's there to just be the lead guard. Point guard isn't even the best thing, but Coach Hoiberg even said on Wednesday he played fantastic, and you look and he had 2 points or whatever.
Right.
So which is fine. Like, it's not always about that, but he played really well. And defensively, again, they've been really good.
Well, we didn't even mention Bryce Williams, who's been playing pretty well.
He had 16 of his 17 points in the second half on Wednesday night. So
providing some shooting, some floor spacing for them as well.
Eli Rice came in, knocked down a 3, needed 2. It's just the lineups are going to be very interesting. Like Eli Rice, the freshman, he's so capable of hitting shots. Just the defensive end is a little bit of a question there. So, but is he just going to be spotman a guy? Like, how's that going to work? And, of course, Sam Hoiberg's definitely going to be in the rotation. He's probably like your 8th guy right now. So,
getting about 20 minutes a game so
far.
Yeah.
He's playing okay, right? Sometimes he takes shots. You're like, probably shouldn't have done that.
Maybe we're more of a caretaker.
Yeah. That's what we maybe sometimes. But he's been good too. So it'll be interesting. Tomorrow's going to be a pivotal-ish game. So, and then you have Wednesday, and I'm telling you, Wednesday is going to be
that Duquesne game.
Yeah,
Fullerton, should that be an easier opponent?
A little
for them?
bit, I
Because
think.
Fullerton's having a little bit of a down year.
Yeah, it's Sunday, right?
Yeah,
next
Sunday.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my birthday. I'll be working.
Happy early birthday.
I'll be at the game working. So,
don't sound so excited about
it. How often do you celebrate a birthday, Mike? You work so much. Yeah, you probably don't even celebrate.
He's going to be gone. He's going to be gone on Thanksgiving. So,
no, we celebrate birthdays in my house. It'd be fun. So, yeah, when you get a certain point in age, it's just the benchmark ones,
right?
Yeah,
and I'm getting up on half of a decade away from the biggest benchmark one. So that'll be coming here in a few years. So
that's
not
30, right?
Yeah, right. That one. Yeah. Add 20 on that. So yeah, it's all right. It'd be fun.
Did we miss anything on Nebraska basketball?
No, I think that's
coverage.
they're CJ Wilcher's played okay. They're getting there.
Most impressive ranked mast, and then what about needs improvement?
Well, they just got to shoot. The scoring piece is tough. They don't have the how do I say it? And I hope people understand what I say. They don't have the twitchiest team, right? They're not just. That's just not how they're built. So they're going to have to play pretty good defense. And
which it seems like they will.
Yeah, that's the.
But they're gonna have to shoot a little better to beat the better teams on the schedule, because of the lack of length, athleticism, and twitchiness, as you say.
Yeah. So the ball also gets a little sticky. So at times it did, I guess, against Ryder. They're just trying to back down guys. It's just out of the offense a little bit.
Yeah,
felt like the ball was stopping too much.
Well, and when a team's built like this, ball stopping is really not what you need in terms of getting good shots.
Yeah, the 5-out offense, the offense.
Because guys aren't beating guys off the dribble super often, right? That's not part of the.
No twitchy and the ball gets sticky is not a good thing.
That's a bad combo. So they can work on one of those in season. The other one's probably not getting.
Hey, that's pretty good now. What I just said, like you guys gave a small laugh. I think that was
pretty good.
Yeah, that was good.
It's pretty dumb funny, but
that was good.
Oh, it was good.
We're talking about basketball.
Let's switch gears here to high school football. You mentioned you're going to be at the 6-man state championships today, and then Monday the bigger classes get underway in Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln. I've talked to every coach.
Okay.
Except for 6-man. I haven't. So I did. You can find it on the Hurrdat Sports YouTube. Eventually, they should be rolling out today, tomorrow, this weekend. Before obviously Monday, we rolled out the Class A1. Class C1, I think, is up too. So, I finished them up yesterday as far as talking with all the coaches, and I've also talked with if there was a coach or a team that common opponent. If so, like in Class B, I talked to Dan Fikert from Elkhorn, who played both Bennington and Scott, along with Coach Turman at Scott and Coach Lenhart at Bennington, just kind of breaking down the game, right? So quickly breaking down the game. We're not getting in the weeds too much, but talk to all those guys, and those will be coming out. It's kind of, it's interesting. It's fun. I'm very much so. How about this for 6-man? And I didn't get this stat, so I got to give credit here. But this is a fun fact. So Nebraska HS football guys does a good job, and give him a shout out for this. But Hayes Springs, who plays tonight in Kearney, has traveled 2,603 miles on a bus round trip this season. Will travel that at the completion of tonight's trip to the Class D6 or 6-man state championship game. Hayes Springs is 1,640 and a half miles away from New York City one way, just in the state. That's how far away, Hayes Springs.
So they could have gone almost to New York and back.
Yeah.
In their one season. Yeah. That's
just in the playoffs.
Just in the playoffs.
Oh, just in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh my gosh.
They've traveled 2,603 miles in the playoffs.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So just in the playoffs, they almost could have made it to New York and back.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah.
So if I typed in Hayes Springs, this is going to be such bad radio. But if I typed in New York City, is that what you said?
Yeah, they're like from one way from that.
Okay. So that is from Hayes Springs to New York City. Oh, keep loading. It's 25 hours. That's 25-hour drive there. So you said it's round trip?
No, it's one way.
It's one way.
Yeah, so it's 1,600 miles one way. They've gone 2,600 miles, so it's almost.
Oh yeah, so they've probably gone 45 hours or 45 hours, 40 hours,
40 hours of
40 hours of travel time
just in the playoffs.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just in the playoffs, not even their season.
That's wild.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
And obviously that is all dependent on like how fast you're driving, like
what road
you're on.
Okay, on a bus,
right.
You're not.
No, but I'm saying like if you're on the highway, it could be 65 miles an hour or 70 versus like you're on a back road and it's 55.
Right. SEM won. It's rare that you get a volleyball and football
double.
state double.
Yeah.
And if they win, SEM wins tonight, they'll do that, which is pretty cool.
Next week, as you're headed to, and we can get to this
Lincoln,
a little bit more with you. Next week, as you're headed to Lincoln, obviously a lot of the attention is going to be on the Class A and B. That Class B final is the one that has me.
It's going to be good.
The most interested because
most watched.
because I don't know if it's the most watched. It'll be the most interested because
I don't know about that.
Of the way that season started for both of these teams.
14-13. You had the
And
incredibly
controversial touchdown call that gave Bennington the win.
Is that officiating crew doing the game?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Probably best if they
I
don't.
would imagine
I want Sautter to do some digging for me.
I would imagine
so.
no.
Bennington and Scott rematch again. I mean, do you anticipate it being as close as the first time? I mean,
I think
there's
so.
not a lot of separation.
I think
here,
so.
right?
And talking to the coaches, both feel pretty good about their defense and their teams.
Sure.
Because they've both
rightfully so.
They've both been phenomenal defensively. Outside of Scott kind of fumbled a little bit against Blair. They had some turnovers, and that's the reason why the Blair game
got
was
to
so
28.
close.
Yeah.
So again, I'll say this, and I talked to Coach Fiker from Elkhorn, and I've brought it up the last handful of weeks and multiple times. You got to score 21 against Bennington to beat them. So, and he agreed. Like we talked about it on the video that we recorded yesterday, and it's just hard to do because they're so good.
Hard to get to
their
that 21.
Defense is so good.
I mean, 15 would have beat them the first time.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah,
and some people would argue that 13 beat them the first time.
True, but that was also like the week one, which feels like 17
It does.
years ago.
It feels like a really long time ago at this point.
But I don't know. I mean, if you really look at it, both teams are super athletic. I just think it'll be a really low scoring game. Weather's going to be a factor. It looks like going to be super windy Tuesday. Monday is going to be a little wet and cold, which isn't great. So have to take care of that. But I do think the Class B game will probably be the most competitive from a score standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it'll be the closest score of the.
Yeah, from A and B, and then Wahoo and Boone Central, I think is going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be really good. Again,
that's
another
C1.
Yeah, C1 game. That will be the morning game.
Yeah, Tuesday at 10:15.
Yeah, 10:15 on Tuesday. That game will be pretty good. Both those teams, Boone Central and Wahoo, have been number one in our coaches poll, 1 or 2 in our coaches poll the whole year. So, and this Boone Central team they're tough. They're physical up front. They're probably a little bigger up front than Wahoo. Wahoo has a bunch of athletes, super well coached, and like to be a little multiple. I've seen them play twice this year. Saw Boone Central once this year. So that'll be really good. Parker Boers, a great back for Boone Central, and Hank Hudson, coach's son, has had a really nice year. He plays some fullback and defensive line. He's been really good. But Noah Bedorski, I can never say his name correctly. I don't know why. Really good wrestler and really good running back for Wahoo.
Real quick on C2 before we take our break here.
It's a rematch.
Anybody taking? I mean, Norfolk Catholic.
Ord's pretty good. I think it'll be the first time they played. It was 31-14, but Ord gave up 2 special teams touchdowns.
Okay, well, let's see it. That's also on Tuesday. That's the 2:45 game as well. We'll talk about Westside and Class A as well as get our picks in coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back.
go win yourself a football game.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
It's the fourth quarter now. I don't care about the actual fourth quarter losses that have come before this Nebraska team. Where this team is at in the season right now is their fourth quarter. You live and die by these moments. Are you the team you think you can be? Or are you just another white plate in a cabinet full of other white plates? No. This is where you become a red plate. This is the point in the season where you separate yourself from the rest that have been haunting your game for the last 5 years. This is where you make something of yourself, the program, and the future of Nebraska. Ethan Piper's mom's here.
You fight if it means you die. You fight, you fight, you fight, and you take for once what we want. Enough of this waiting for something good to happen. Who's the guy that's supposed to make the difference? I'm surrounded by it. Now you guys freaking do it. We on the same page? Yes, sir. Fight, fight, fight.
If that doesn't fire you up, I don't know what will. All eyes on you this weekend. Sat, don't be throwing the ball on 3rd and goal. It's prime time, baby. Don't fail yourselves. Don't fail your teammates. Trust your instincts. Play fearless. Play fearless. And go win yourself a football game. Woo!
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Andrew Rogers. Mike Sautter here with us for the whole 9 o'clock hour.
That didn't wake me up or anything.
You're welcome. I feel like I gave my best Matt Rule impersonation of saying "Play Fearless" twice, but with like some extra oomph the second time.
I thought your best impression was either Piper mom's here.
If your voice didn't sound like a 12-year-old, you would have been a little better.
All right, my guy. Talking.
No, you just need to work on the cigarettes a little bit.
Yeah,
he's gonna get frostbite on his ears tonight. He's got nothing up top.
Get the little in there.
I was gonna say, I don't know if Matt Rule was ever a smoker, but he's got a little gravel in his voice, like he used to be.
Sorry, guys. I just haven't gotten there.
Maybe
yet.
Just get some of those victory cigars like Michael Jordan. That'll get you there a little quicker. You'll be all right.
You know what? Matt Rule's voice just went up 6 octaves. It's cool.
We are doing our Warhorse Sportsbook cleanup. And to clean things up, we're going to start with Class A High School Football State Championship. We're also going to get to our picks this week. But I want to remind you that Warhorse Sportsbook, you can place your bets in person at the casino in Lincoln or now in Omaha, 6303 Q Street at Horseman's Park. Warhorse Sportsbook is the best place to place your bets in Omaha. All right, Sautter, that West Side Elkhorn South game. I think a lot of us were surprised that this isn't West Side Millard South again. Elkhorn South able to pull off the minor upset of Millard South in the semifinals there. Am I overlooking Elkhorn South by just assuming this is a coronation for West Side?
Yeah, I think a little bit.
West Side's obviously the heavy favorite, right?
Yeah. Okay. And everybody, that's
not
clear.
Yes.
That's not
being disrespectful to anybody.
No, it's not.
West Side is, I believe, 144-6 in the playoffs scoring margin. So that'll get it done.
Yeah.
What are they, a 21-point favorite?
I don't do that. I'm not touching that question. I will say this though, Elkhorn South, since Brody Busquet has been back in the lineup.
Wait, who's back?
Brady Busquet.
Oh,
like a croissant.
It's a T at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So since he's been back, he's been great. And Madden Riggs hit a shot over the seam. I would say a really, really nice
football
play. Yeah. Madden hit Busquet on a seam route, and that really got him in the game. I just look back. I'm kind of glad I was there on Friday night to see Elkhorn South and Millard South because it was the closest game, right? Of the four. And it was really good. Millard South controlled the game, but man, Elkhorn South just kept fighting. They didn't give up at all. They could have. And they just kept fighting. It was pretty impressive, the resilience that they showed. They're not going to back down. They're pretty big up front. They're bigger up front than Westside is. And they're pretty athletic. Dylan Kingston's good, and Ethan Duda's pretty good outside linebacker. Kingston had that pick six where he just jumped the route and took off. I don't know if you guys saw that, but to basically seal the game. And they scored 21 points in 8 minutes and 5 seconds. So it's pretty quick for Elkhorn South. I don't know. I think obviously they're going to try and control the ball, I think, and run it and have a good game. They're really well coached, super experienced coaching staff. That does a really nice job. I think they'll be able to hang in there for a time. But yeah, it's I'm not going out on a limb here by any means and saying that Westside's clearly the favorite and clearly, if Elkhorn South beats them on Tuesday night, it's a massive upset.
Now, we could all, I think, make the argument that Elkhorn South has beat adversity this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just battled it; they beat adversity.
Losing your quarterback, like all that.
So going into a matchup like this, having that in your back pocket can't ever be but a good thing.
Right. Yeah. They they just keep fighting. Like, that's the only thing. I mean, Carson Rauner goes down. He's clearly their starting quarterback. It was a major injury. And they just kept finding a way. They've lost one game. I mean, it's not like.
And one of the stranger games that I'd seen all year.
Yeah, I mean.
That Millard South, Elkhorn South, which we saw in the rematch.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It was a little closer than what that.
Yeah, it ended up being 33-0. You had 2 defensive touchdowns in the first half. Rauner gets hurt. It's a very fluky, strange game.
Yeah. They did, I will say this, they did struggle a little bit with Jeter Worthley, who's the quarterback for Lincoln East in that playoff game. He just runs around, makes plays all the time. So
good baseball player.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Really good. He's a really good baseball player. So I think maybe, Rizak's legs can bother them a little bit. But obviously I think that's probably an advantage at that position, obviously, in that game. So yeah, it'll be I'm just trying to talk myself into a way that Elkhorn South can hang in there, right? Hang in the fight until it gets close. I just don't know if I think it's going to be tough. Yeah,
I think it's going to be. Is it potentially the closest game Westside plays this year? Because what is it? 17 against Millard South, I think is the closest one.
Yeah.
Hard to predict.
Yeah, it's hard, but man, I will tell you, like
that Westside is a juggernaut.
They are locked in, and they've lost 2 games. Their seniors have lost 2 games
ever.
Yeah.
This isn't like ever. I mean,
like they were undefeated in freshman football. I'm saying like
that gets talked about for years and years.
Yeah, like they if they can. I said it after I went to their first practice.
Yeah.
If they can handle their business and win by the margin of victory or whatever that they're supposed to all year, and just all of those things, they're gonna go down as one of the best teams ever. They're definitely in the conversation if they can win on Tuesday night.
Top 4 or
There's
5
pressure
teams
there
in state history.
Yeah, and it's such everyone's going to have their own, like you're always going to think you're always going to think that Millard North 03 team, and prep people are going to think the 85 prep team.
Westside people right now think 82 Westside. A lot of them, like
and
Bellevue West people say 19
Bellevue West because they give up 63 points or something dumb like the whole year. It's a crazy number. And then
I'll say Westside's number
not
a
far
whole lot.
off
I was gonna say it's not a lot higher.
We can do the math quick, and it's not hard. They've given up 21 and 6 is 27 plus 12.
They're at 46. They're at 46 this year. So
that's
crazy. They would have to give up 17 to tie that Bellevue West team.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to do
the
that.
Their current score on the season is 587 to 46.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to give up that.
Is
that a key number?
That's pretty good.
I honestly, I don't see a way that Elkhorn South scores 3 touchdowns unless it's on a
something fluky,
like a fumble return, pick six, something like that, like defensive touchdown or special teams or something. Offensively, I don't think they can.
So you talk about how many points it takes to beat Bennington. How many points does it take to beat Westside?
50.
A lot. 30 some
easy
minimum.
Right?
Yeah.
On an off night.
2015 Omaha North is in that conversation too with Calvin Strong and those guys. So it's like they just got to handle it. I mean, it's going to take Elkhorn South's going to have to find a way to get in the 30s to win,
which is a tall task against a team that's given up, 46 points all year. They're almost going to have to match that number in one game.
I'm also not going to say that there is a way. Like, it's a tough task, but there's a way that Elkhorn South can maybe get it done.
Fair enough. Coming up next, we've got Matt Vrzal to wrap up the show.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now let's find out what Matt Vrzal is better at. Telling stories or making pizza.
Matt.
Matt's an exceptional young man.
Matt Vrzal.
Happy birthday, Matt.
You know, Matt, he's a tremendous athlete.
Matt Vrzal.
Come on, Matt, I'm with you.
You know, like Matt Vrzal, you're one of the sexiest people in the world, but you're not one of the most beautiful. How did that happen?
Here is Matt Vrzal.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
We are wrapping up the show on a Friday like we always do with our friend Matt Vrzal, former Husker and owner of Paisans Pizzeria. Verz, how are you this morning?
I've been better. I got up a little. The football season and the hours kind of caught me here, so I'm a little behind schedule today. So if it's noisy in the background, you're just going to have to deal with it. But we're above the dirt and we're ready to go for another day.
Slinging pies?
Sautter said he had a pie last night from you.
I did.
I am, yep.
I had the leftovers when I got home. My wife's boss actually picked up and took it to our house last night. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your wife's boss?
Yeah. Yeah. My wife had surgery about 2 weeks ago.
So, oh, no.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Is she okay?
Yeah, she's fine. We'll talk about it. We can talk off air about it. Yeah, she's fine.
All right.
First, let's get started with a little bit of Class B high school football. With your Scut team is getting
Skyhawks, capital H. That's how you spell it.
That's fine.
I'm just saying.
Do you have a t-shirt?
They're getting that rematch that I'm sure they so richly have won it against Bennington after that opening week game. As you kind of head into that one, just how's the temperament of the team as you are kind of finally get that rematch?
Good, man. The boys are good. They're excited. We have grown every week, which is all you can really hope for. And you just now kind of something that I've been preaching, especially the linemen. I was like, you need to play your game. You need to be the best version of yourself in this last game. And they've answered the bell. I mean, there was obviously after our first one, people were kind of pissed, and I actually wasn't. I was like, if you didn't want that to happen, you shouldn't have been in that position. Said, now, if you want a chance to prove yourself, you got to go win the next 11. Because guess what? Bennington is very talented. They're very well coached, and they're very well going to be there. So there's your goal. If you think you got jammed, go win the next 11, and let's go see if we can find that out.
How do you slow down your guy, Jack Jansen? Because he's awfully good as a DN for Bennington.
Yeah, Jack is a good kid. I got the chance to work with Jack in the off season, so good to see him having success and doing his thing. Jimmy over there too plays cards for them, so that's always an awkward deal.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're walking out, you're like, God bless. Why did I do that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I talked to Coach Turman and Coach Lenhart, and then I actually talked yesterday to Coach Fikert from Elkhorn about the game, just breaking down kind of the game, right? Everyone it's going to be a defensive, one of those 17-14 type of things, maybe. Is that, obviously you guys are hoping to score more points than that, but it feels like it'll be a defensive game.
I got out of that prediction business a while ago because this is why. Because I'm bad at it. Like I have games where I'm just like, oh, this is about to be 6-3.
Yeah.
And we go out there, it's 42-41. I obviously have very little grasp on this concept. Here's the thing. Bennington, very disciplined, very fast, very aggressive. Okay? Those things will cause problems for an offense. For us, we feel we are physical, so we have to match their physicality. We have to play discipline, and then we just have to know that team is going to make a play. It's how you recover after they make the play. Do you sit and let it fester? Do you worry about it? How do you handle? Now, we've had the opportunity in the playoffs to practice that a couple times, and if we could have passed on both of those experiences, that probably would have helped my blood pressure. But we got down early against Blair, and we battled back. And then we had a lead against Waverly, and then they had a lead. So they've been in that spot, and now it's just like, okay, you got to put the whole season together. And the things that you weren't good at early, you're probably better at now. So now you got to be better at them for an entire football game, and you've earned yourself a chance to go play. And now there's nothing. There's no – all the coaching cliches are there. There is no tomorrow. Leave it all on the field. All those things that,
pre-game
that we love to, that we love to throw out there. But it'll be we'll see what happens the last time, maybe the second to last time, that we were in this locker room. I walked in because I drive down on my own. I'm not a bus guy. And so I get in there and walk into it, and it would have been our old locker room. Crest the door. I look in, walk over. I see the boys, they're all fired up, and I see Term. And I walk over to him, and he goes, "What's up?" And I just dead in the face looked at him. I was like, "We are going to effing win by 100 points." And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "Why do you think that? Why would you say that?" And I was like, look over at the wall. I was like, Caden Reimers, who was number 51, was sitting in my old locker.
Wow.
And I was like, there you go, Catholic boys. The good And so then in that one we did go out and we played real well and we won. So it was, yeah, to be in that locker room, it'll just bring back some memories and get some laughs. And then the boys, of course, have questions like, "Where'd you sit?" I'm like, "Right there where Caden is." And one kid put it together. He goes, "Weren't you 51?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, "Where'd Turman sit?" He said he was over there on Pretty Boy Row. Like, he sat right by the door.
Verz, in a tornado of negativity this week amongst Husker football fans, you're kind of a glass half full guy. What stuck out to you as a breath of fresh air from this group? Whether it was from the weekend, from the game that you were like, "Oh, that was a good thing," or even what you've heard about this week in practice, something you could consider a much needed bright spot during some dark moments.
I thought Chuba played real well. For a guy that hasn't had any snaps and now that we know he's on a bad groin, what he was able to do, I was impressed with. So he would be the highlight of my real highlight is that I think Wisconsin team has mailed it in on the new experiment. I don't think this is so eerily similar to what we went through with I will not allow this program to gravitate toward mediocrity. Steve, I will never forget that, by the way. I don't know where you are, but someday I will find you.
Liam Neeson style.
Because the statements that Wisconsin put out there after the game we've heard them all. We got to get back in here as a team and find out who's really bought in. I'm like, well, it's game 10. If you're asking me that question right now or uttering that phrase, I know the answer. Nobody. And the way that all kind of went down against Northwestern, where there were guys just kind of running wide open, and Northwestern really kind of handled that whole game. I'm probably more excited that they could implode than of something we did in our game.
Verz, I've been talking a lot this week about how I thought the offensive line actually played really well against Maryland. Certainly better than they had for the rest of the season. Coach Rule kind of reiterated that earlier in the week. What are some of the things you've seen? I know you really like Justin Evans-Jenkins, but where are some areas of growth you've seen on that offensive line that it no longer feels like a liability?
Out of a one-game sample size, I just thought they were more aggressive. From there was it's got to be a controlled aggression. Okay, you have to calm your brain and then just let your body execute. And I thought they did that probably better than they had in a while. The adults with the situation though, I have to let them eat. Like you have to let them eat down by the goal line. You have to let them eat in crucial situations. In our game, Waverly, we got down toward the end, running like 4-minute drill and get to 3rd and 7. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, here comes the pass. In reality, and that I shouldn't have thought that because with the time on the clock, and a pass is stupid because it stops the clock. But when Term sends the play in, and 2-3 of the linemen look at each other and high five, and I was like, okay. And then you convert a 3rd and 7 with a play that we like to run. That they were so ecstatic that trust was there to be able to do that in that situation. That you'd love to see that done at the college level. Let your big dogs eat. They already think you don't trust them. You can tell them you trust them, and this isn't anything bad against anybody. This is just reality. But if you got down there and you said, "All right, boys, here's the deal. We got 3 downs. We're running it 3 times, and I expect to be in the end zone after the first one." And to see them kind of then, build that confidence and get hyped up and those kind of things. That's what I would have loved to see in that spot.
Matt Vrzal, our guy, former Husker, owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. Good luck on Monday in that championship game. And we won't talk to you next week because of the holiday, but we appreciate you joining us.
Yep. Tune in Tuesday. I've got all the games on Tuesday. So
there we go.
Thanks, Verz.
He'll be on the call
You're
for all the Tuesday games. We appreciate Verz, and he does a great job on those broadcasts as well. That's it for this week. We will be back on Monday for the short week for Thanksgiving. We appreciate everybody listening in.
Hey, Sautter, thank you too.
Yeah, you're welcome.